Chapter 21, Zhang Kong's Shock. Zhang Kong was furious. "Zhang Chu, you brat, can you stop messing around? Get out of here. This is none of your business. If you don't leave, I'll personally take you to the punishment hall and then have your sister go there to get you." "Who are you trying to scare? I'm not leaving. Let me tell you, I'm here today to collect my reward too. I've also mastered the basic stance training. You're giving Li Yun a reward. You can't not give me one, can you?" "You." Zhang Kong laughed angrily. "You, who have only been a beginner for a short time and are still messing around all day, how could you possibly have mastered the basics of stance training so quickly? See, you're underestimating me again, aren't you? I knew you'd react like this. Today I'll show you something amazing." After saying that, Zhang Chu then walked to the side with great interest and began to practice his basic stance training. Zhang Kongchu didn't take it seriously, thinking that Zhang Chu was just fooling around. But soon, Zhang Chuzhen executed each move smoothly, leaving Zhang Kong stunned and his eyes wide open. This was even more exaggerated than when they learned that Li Yun had initially mastered the basics of stance training. It's not that he underestimated Zhang Chu. How could he not know what kind of talent Zhang Chu had, being from the same family? But it was precisely because they were so familiar with each other that he had a preconceived notion and thought Zhang Chu was just fooling around. I never expected that Zhang Chuzhen could achieve initial mastery of stance training in such a short time. It wasn't until Zhang Chu had performed all 12 stances that this happened. Zhang Kengkai said with a look of surprise, "Not bad. You have actually achieved the initial success of the stance training. It seems that you have studied and practiced diligently and researched a lot in the past month since you entered the sect. That's very good. With your second-grade aptitude, as long as you maintain this attitude, I dare not say that you will be promoted to the inner sect within 3 years, but you still have a great chance of being promoted to the inner sect within 5 years. Zhang Kong wasn't making this up. Under normal circumstances, it takes about 5 years, or 3 years as an outer disciple and 2 years as a steward, for someone to reverse their innate talent through acquired means. The chances are actually only about 50%. But that's under normal circumstances. Zhang Chu is no ordinary person. He not only has his older sister Zhang Ruohan behind him, but also the entire Zhang family. As long as he shows an upward trend, the Zhang family's resources will be tilted towards him to help him reverse his innate abilities. To everyone's surprise, Zhang Chu was very dissatisfied. "You don't need to tell me that, you old nephew. With my boss guiding me, I'll definitely be able to enter the inner sect, and it won't even take 5 years. You agree, right, boss?" Zhang Chu looked at Li Yun with a smile. "Li Yun." "Boss." This time, Zhang Kong seemed to have realized something and turned his gaze to Li Yun. "Stop looking, nephew. With your eyesight, you're so old and blind you can't even judge a person. What's this proficient state? Proficient state is nothing. Let me tell you, yesterday my boss's stance training was already at a minor level. He had an epiphany and mastered it right in front of my sister, and today he's directly reached perfection. When have you ever seen such a peerless genius? You're so stingy, only rewarding me with a martial arts technique and 2 chi-boosting pills. Humph, if I were my boss, I'd be heading down the mountain tonight and proactively seeking refuge with other sects tomorrow." "Zhang Chu, stop talking nonsense." Seeing that Zhang Chu was talking more and more outrageous, Li Yun quickly pulled him back. Then he bowed to Zhang Kong and apologized. "Elder Zhang, please don't mind. Zhang Chu just likes to mess around." Zhang Kong wasn't angry. He just stared intently at Li Yun. "I know whether Zhang Chu is being unreasonable or not. I'm asking you now, have you truly perfected your basic stance training?" Li Yun smiled slightly and nodded calmly. Now that he's here, he has no intention of hiding anything. In a sect as large as the Tianwu sect, if you want to receive support or special treatment, you must demonstrate your own value. Thanks to Deacon Su Qing and Senior Sister Zhang, I have indeed perfected my basic stance training and have now grasped the true meaning of the first stance, the green pine. Boom. Upon hearing this, Zhang Kong felt a buzzing in his head, and his face was filled with shock. After just over a month of practice, I've mastered the stance training and even grasped its true meaning. This is simply unbelievable. He was starting to doubt his beliefs. Li Yun, demonstrate your stance training for me right now. Yes. Li Yun walked to the side, and this time Zhang Chu didn't cause any more trouble. Instead, he deliberately winked at Zhang Kong, looking smug, but Zhang Kong ignored him. He had no interest in paying attention to Zhang Chu at the moment. At that moment, two more figures suddenly entered through the gate of Cang Yun residence. Old Zhang, what are you doing? Old Li and I have come to invite you for a drink. Aren't you going to greet us? Two elderly men, who looked to be about the same age as Zhang Kong, walked into Cang Yun residence with smiles on their faces. When they saw that there were other people in Cang Yun residence, their smiles immediately disappeared, and they looked at Zhang Kong with puzzled expressions. What are they doing? Zhang Kong didn't explain, he just smiled and said, Old Li, Old Huang, you've come at the right time. Don't say anything yet, just watch with me. Li Yun, let's begin. Yes. Without saying a word, Li Yun took a deep breath and immediately got into the zone. Basic stance training was demonstrated on the spot from the very first stance. From that moment on, both Zhang Kong and the two old men who followed him widened their eyes in astonishment. Good heavens, this skill is perfectly natural, a sign of perfection. Such a young kid, could he have just started learning in September? You started learning in September. It's only been a little over a month, and you've already mastered the basic stance training. Old Zhang, are you planning to give us a big surprise? Zhang Kong didn't speak, but stared intently at Li Yun. Watching Li Yun perform his skills, one move after another, each one flowing smoothly and naturally, was like watching an extremely beautiful performance. I couldn't bear to look away. The 12 stakes were completed in the blink of an eye. Return to the first stake and stand still. In that instant, a mysterious and profound rhythm suddenly emanated from Li Yun's body. The true meaning of the evergreen pine. The true meaning of the evergreen pine. The true meaning of the evergreen pine. Zhang Kong and the other two blurted out in unison, their voices filled with shock and surprise. Until Li Yun stopped. The three of them couldn't wait any longer and rushed in front of Li Yun, surrounding him and staring at him with burning eyes, looking him up and down. A genius, simply a genius. In just over a month, you've mastered the basics of stance training and grasped its true meaning. In the 800 years since our heavenly martial sect was founded, we've never seen such unparalleled talent as you. Zhang Kong was overjoyed. On the one hand, it was because the Tianwu sect had produced an outstanding genius, and on the other hand, it was because Li Yun was practically discovered by him. Within a large sect like the Tianwu sect, there are several hidden factions. The discovery of Li Yun's genius through his efforts has brought immeasurable benefits to his faction, and even the Zhang family. The same thought almost simultaneously popped into the minds of Zhang Kong, Lao Huang, and Lao Li. This person must be given special attention and training. Chapter 22, Purple Profound Dao Fruit, Dare to Take on a Live Challenge. Li Yun, how did you do that? In just over a month, the basic stance training has reached this level. No one in the Tianwu sect has ever been able to achieve this in the 800 years since its founding. Zhang Kong and the other two stared intently at Li Yun, their eyes filled with surprise and confusion. Li Yun's behavior is somewhat contrary to common sense. The word, genius, is no longer sufficient to describe him. Elders, this disciple doesn't know either. This disciple was just cultivating normally. Li Yun looked completely innocent. Then he told him about how Su Qing had given him a notebook on stance training. He intends to attribute his rapid progress in basic stance training to this stance training notebook. However, Zhang Kong and his two companions were not so easily fooled. As outer sect elders, how could they not know about the stance training notes? In the outer sect, they had seen many outer sect disciples secretly buying stance training manuals. In fact, there were several versions of those manuals, each written by a different inner sect disciple. Some inner disciples with relatively ordinary backgrounds and limited resources make money by selling things like stance training notes. But how could these stance training notes be as miraculous as Li Yun described? If it were truly that miraculous, it wouldn't have taken until Li Yun arrived to reveal its power. The outer disciples of the Tianwu sect had already risen to prominence, with at least several hundred more being promoted to inner disciples each year. Let's not talk about the standing meditation notes. Your notes are just so-so. They might have some effect on you, but they're definitely not that miraculous. Why don't you think about it again? Have you encountered anything unusual or had any strange experiences during this period? Let me think about it. Li Yun pretended to be deep in thought, but inwardly he was groaning. The three elders were indeed not easy to fool, but we definitely couldn't talk about the system. What should we do? I've got it. Li Yun's eyes suddenly lit up, and he said cautiously, "Elders, I haven't encountered anything special, but about half a month after I entered the sect, I was out walking around and accidentally swallowed a purple fruit. I wonder if that counts as a peculiar experience." Purple fruit. What exactly does it look like, and what does it feel like after swallowing it? I can't describe the specifics, but I remember feeling hot all over after eating it, like my whole body was burning up, but I was also very clear-headed. Hiss. Just as he finished speaking, old Huang, who was actually an outer sect elder named Huang Huizong, suddenly gasped. I see. Could it be that Li Yun ate the legendary purple profound Dao fruit? Zixuan Dao fruit. Zixuan Dao fruit. Hiss. Upon hearing the words purple profound Dao fruit, Zhang Kong and Lao Li, Li Sixing, immediately changed their expressions and gasped in shock. Impossible, right? Legend has it that the purple profound Dao fruit is born in the clouds and disappears without a trace once it lands. It cannot be found or planted. Only a very few people with extremely strong innate luck and favored by heaven and earth can encounter it. Could it be Li Yun? Zhang Kong stared at Li Yun with a mixture of surprise and disbelief. How is that impossible? The power of destiny is so subtle that even the strongest beings in the world today probably cannot accurately grasp it, let alone you and me. How can ordinary people like you and me tell whether destiny is extremely strong with just a pair of naked eyes? How dare you say that Li Yun isn't someone with exceptionally strong luck? Huang Huizong glared at Zhang Kong, then said, However, if Li Yun really does manage to swallow the purple profound Dao fruit by chance, there is a way we can give it a try. What method? Zhang Kong asked, puzzled. Huang Huizong smiled calmly. You've forgotten. It said that those who consume the purple profound Dao fruit will be imbued with Taoist charm, and over time they will develop extraordinary comprehension. The reason why Li Yun was able to cultivate basic stance training to such a high level in such a short period of time is most likely due to this kind of comprehension. But that's not something we saw with our own eyes, so it doesn't count. Therefore, I decided to give it a try on the spot. Zhang Kong was taken aback and asked, How do we test it? Huang Huizong did not answer directly, but looked at Li Yun. Li Yun, do you dare to give me a challenge on the spot? Li Yun quickly stood up, cupped his hands, and said, Elder Huang, may I ask what kind of challenge this is? Huang Huizong, it's very simple. I'm going to demonstrate a high-grade body tempering realm martial art right now, and you can just watch from the side and see how much you can learn. How about that? These words were spoken. Zhang Kong and Li Sixing's eyes lit up immediately. Okay, this is good. This is indeed an excellent way to verify one's understanding. Li Yun was even more tempted. An outer sect elder, a master of the innate realm, demonstrating martial arts right in front of him. Wasn't this a martial arts knowledge point delivered to his doorstep? He agreed without even thinking. It is my great honor to have the opportunity to witness the elder's martial arts demonstration. Good, not bad. Courageous and decisive. Huang Huizong was a decisive person. He immediately leaped and moved to an open area in the courtyard. Li Yun. The martial art I will demonstrate next is a rather rare one, called Thunderclap. Although it is only a body-tempering realm martial art, if one cultivates it to perfection, one can truly comprehend a trace of the true meaning of Thunderclap. Not only is the punch swift, but it also carries a trace of lightning power. Even a martial artist who has cultivated internal energy to the refinement realm cannot withstand it if their internal energy is not deep enough. Watch closely. As soon as he finished speaking, Huang Huizong began to practice on the spot. Zhang Kong and Li Sixing exchanged a glance and secretly revealed a knowing smile. The demonstration was conducted on the spot, allowing Li Yun to grasp the concepts immediately. The martial art being practiced is a rare one. If Li Yun can truly learn it, it would prove one thing. Li Yun's basic stance skill was indeed cultivated through his own extraordinary comprehension and not a deliberate fabrication. Based on this alone, they could confidently nurture Li Yun. What the two were unaware of was, Li Yun didn't possess any extraordinary comprehension, but the amazing system began to beat at an astonishing rate after Huang Huizong officially started practicing. Observe Huang Huizong demonstrating martial arts, cognition points plus 500. Observe Huang Huizong demonstrating martial arts, cognition points plus 500. The gain of 500 cognitive points per second is simply insane, even more exaggerated than looking at the stone tablet at the entrance of Qinglong Academy and Zhuke Academy. What's even more interesting is that Huang Huizong clearly took care of Li Yun's lower cultivation level and poor eyesight, deliberately slowing down the speed when practicing the Thunder Fist. That is why, by the time Huang Huizong had performed the Thunder Fist completely, a full 3 minutes had passed. Just these 3 minutes. The martial arts knowledge points on the panel have once again exceeded 100,000. At the same time, a new martial art, Thunder Fist, has been added to the martial arts section, with its level displayed as not yet entered. Chapter 23 shocking, 1 million knowledge points. Huang Huizong stopped and stood up, smiling as he asked, Li Yun, did you see it clearly? Li Yun was about to nod when a thought suddenly struck him. This is a golden opportunity. We must cherish it. So he said, Elder Huang, I have seen the general outline, but there are still some details that I cannot grasp. Could you please demonstrate it again? Huang Huizong did not refuse, nodded, and readily demonstrated it again. This time, I actually slowed it down even more. After the entire rehearsal was completed, it took a full 5 minutes, during which time the speaker also provided some verbal explanations. As a result, Li Yun's cognitive points were forcibly increased from 500 per second to 600 per second. 5 minutes later, the panel showed an additional 180,000 knowledge points. The total is over 280,000. Li Yun almost farted. However, that's all we can do. Some things can be done once or twice, but not 3 times. If we continue like this, it's hard to guarantee that someone won't notice something amiss. Thank you, Elder Huang. This disciple will give it a try. After Huang Huizong finished his practice, Li Yun walked to an open space to the side, stood there and closed his eyes. He seemed to be recalling the Thunder Fist that Huang Huizong had just practiced, but in reality, he had already pulled out the system and started adding points to it. Thunder Fist is a high-grade martial art in the body-tempering realm, so its starting point is already quite high. It took Li Yun 500 knowledge points to get started with it. After that, it reached 1,000 points, and the initial formation was complete. 2,500 points, proficient. After spending 4,000 points in one go, Li Yun finally stopped adding points. It's not that I don't want to add more, it's that I can't. To comprehend a martial art one has never encountered before, and then master it in one go simply by watching someone demonstrate it twice, is already too exaggerated. Add a little more, and you'll reach the point of minor mastery. What kind of comprehension does one need to be so abnormal? Besides, time doesn't allow it. After adding points 3 times in a row and comprehending the information transmitted by the system, it has already taken some time. We can't keep the 3 elders waiting like this. Li Yun resolutely opened his eyes. A look of confidence shone on his face. All right. Elders, please look. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Yun began to move more freely. First move, rumbling thunder. Second move, thunderclap begins. Third move, thunderous sky splitting. The thunderclap fist, consisting of 9 forms and containing hundreds of variations, was executed one move at a time. From being somewhat awkward at the beginning, it gradually became fluent and proficient. Each punch unleashed a fierce gust of wind, like thunder roaring. In an instant, Zhang Kong and the other 2 were stunned. Good heavens! What extraordinary comprehension! He only observed it twice, learned it directly, and then reached the proficiency level in one go. If he had a little more time, wouldn't he have achieved minor mastery directly? My God! The 3 elders were so shocked that they didn't know how to describe it. Especially Huang Huzong himself. He was the one who demonstrated the Thunder Fist, so he has the most authority to speak on it. Moreover, he clearly remembered how much effort he had put into practicing this Thunderclap Fist when he was still an outer disciple. Not only did he sift through all sorts of notes, but in order to comprehend the essence of the Thunderclap Fist, he risked his life countless times to run to the mountaintop during thunderstorms to observe the lightning. In the end, it took a full 3 months to master this martial art. Compared to Li Yun now, there is absolutely no comparison. That's outrageous. That's way too outrageous. If anyone says that Li Yun didn't consume the purple profound Dao fruit, I'll fight them. Who else could have such an exaggerated performance if they didn't consume that legendary immortal Dao fruit? Even a top-tier qualification can't achieve this. Seeing Huang Huzong so excited, Li Sixing couldn't help but stand up, eager to try as well. I'll give it a try too. Li Yun, would you like to learn another martial art? Li Yun's eyes lit up immediately. Damn, is there such a good thing? Is today his lucky day? Why are we forming a group to help him increase his knowledge? It's a fool not to take advantage of a good deal. This opportunity to learn martial arts and gain knowledge points is one you might not get again if you miss it today. Say nothing, just do it. Elder Li is so kind to me. If I don't accept it, wouldn't I be letting down Elder Li's good intentions? This disciple accepts the test. Haha, good, you're confident. Li Sixing gave Li Yun an appreciative look, then stepped forward and began to demonstrate his martial arts. Li Yun quickly composed himself and stared intently. Observe Li Sixing's martial arts demonstration. Cognition points plus 500. Observe Li Sixing's martial arts demonstration. Cognition points plus 500. This day was destined to make Li Yun a fortune in silence. After finishing 1 round of martial arts practice, Li Sixing didn't ask Li Yunxing if it was okay, and immediately started the 2nd round, deliberately slowing down the pace just like Huang Huzong. Unsurprisingly, while teaching Li Yun a new martial art, Flying Star Step, he also quietly gained 270,000 cognition points, bringing his total cognition points on the panel to an astonishing 540,000. Zhang Kong, who had made a promise to Li Yun, generously offered 2 martial arts techniques to Li Yun after seeing how hard Huang Huzong and Li Sixing were working, and even demonstrated them for Li Yun on the spot. Unwittingly, Li Yun gained nearly 500,000 knowledge points, bringing his total knowledge points to over 1,000,000. Then the three of them joined forces and took out 3 bottles containing a total of 30 qi and blood pills, which they gave to Li Yun, making Zhang Chu so envious that his eyes almost popped out. Until this point, the deep darkness of night had already enveloped Cang Yun residence. Zhang Kong, Huang Huizong, and Li Sixing, who were already extremely satisfied with Li Yun, asked him to sit down. He solemnly explained, "Li Yun, your comprehension is astonishing. It can be said to be the first we have ever seen. We will report your existence to the sect's higher-ups later. At that time, you will gain the attention of the sect's higher-ups, but it may also bring you some trouble. I hope you are mentally prepared. Of course, you don't need to worry too much. So-called troubles may not necessarily be crises that threaten your life. They may also be opportunities. If you seize them, you can soar to great heights and become famous in the Tianwu sect, or even throughout the entire Dongyun continent." Li Yun wasn't stupid. He knew that no matter how strong his talent was, it wouldn't be enough to make the 3 elders open their hearts to him so easily. The world is bustling with activity, all for the sake of profit. The world is in turmoil, all for the sake of gain. Everything stems from the pursuit of profit. It was his talent that made the 3 elders see his value, and thus wanted to win him over. Li Yun was not averse to this. They are also willing to cooperate. After all, the system only provides cognitive points to help him master martial arts faster than others, rather than making him invincible in one step. To truly rise in this world, he still needs resources, leverage existing power, and proceed cautiously step by step. Rest assured, elders, I understand. Good that you understand. We have seen your talent and your character. As long as you keep it up, you will definitely have a place among the strong in the future. Also, come again tomorrow, and I will personally take you to the armory to choose a martial art. Chapter 24. Is there a secret behind stance training? When leaving Cang Yun residence, Li Yun was in a wonderful mood. Even Zhang Chu was chattering excitedly on the side, saying that at this rate, it probably wouldn't be long before Li Yun became the top disciple of the outer sect with the character Ren in his name. Li Yun actually became quite interested in this chief position with the character Chinese letter in its name. If Gu Yunzhang, the chief of Ren 95 Academy, was merely someone Su Qing initially favored and deliberately created to motivate the disciples of Ren 95 Academy, he was not actually recognized by the sect. The chief official with the character Chinese letter in Zhang Chu's words was different. This is a title that is recognized by the sect and granted certain privileges by the sect. There are only 10 such chief disciples in the entire outer sect. However, the 4 outer disciples with the surnames Zheng, Xin, Ren, and Gui all joined the sect in September of this year and are all newcomers. So far, the 4 chief disciples have not yet been appointed. But without a doubt, to become one of these 4 chiefs, one must have a sufficiently impressive record or advantage to convince others. But this is not easy. Even a single character outer sect requires 100 academies, and each academy has 100 disciples, which means there are 10,000 disciples in total. To stand out among 10,000 disciples and be truly chosen as the chief disciple is incredibly difficult. The challenges involved are beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. However, Li Yun was still very confident about becoming the chief of the Ren class. With the system at his disposal, and having only been a beginner for a month or so, his strength has already surpassed that of others by a large margin. If he can't become the chief, how can he face anyone? Of course, nothing is absolute. As a time traveler, he also knew that competitions involving reputation and interests were often difficult to be absolutely fair. He wasn't afraid of anyone based on his own strength, but if there really was a powerful force pulling the strings behind the scenes, then there was nothing he could do unless he went all out and used underhanded tactics to escalate the situation. However, there's no rush for now. For the time being, Li Yun didn't need to consider anything further. What was truly urgent for him was how to make the most of the million-dollar knowledge points he had just acquired. In his view, the 4 martial arts skills he had just learned should definitely be improved first. All 4 skills would help improve his current strength, and most importantly, it wouldn't cost more than a few knowledge points to improve them all to perfection. He hesitated between basic stance training and revering fate technique. These 2 martial arts are currently the biggest consumers of knowledge points. Basic stance training also contains 11 true meanings that have not yet been sublimated. To sublimate them all, each one requires 50,000 points for a total of 650,000 knowledge points. Needless to say, the reverse fate technique requires 10,000 points to get started, 100,000 to achieve initial mastery, and it's easy to imagine that the knowledge points consumed afterward will be even greater, an astronomical figure. Furthermore, the fact that the reverse fate technique can improve one's aptitude is extremely important. Li Yun had already vaguely realized that the more knowledge points he gained from observing others, the less knowledge points he would consume when improving his martial arts. Perhaps at present it is just a matter of upgrading from a 5th grade aptitude to a mid-5th grade aptitude, and it is not particularly obvious yet, but in the long run, it will be completely different. Damn it. This is such a headache. I thought 1,000,000 knowledge points would be enough for me to show off for a while, but it turns out it's still not enough. Boss, what are you thinking about? We're almost there. Suddenly, Zhang Chu waved his hand in front of his eyes and looked at Li Yun with a puzzled expression. Boss, are you all right? You seem a bit distracted the whole way here. No, I was just thinking about basic stance training. Basic stance training? What's there to think about? You've already grasped the true meaning of the first stance, so you should continue to comprehend it and understand all 12 true meanings. You're right. If I have the chance, I definitely want to understand the full meaning of basic stance training. However, I'm considering a problem. So, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Zhang Chu was taken aback. Boss, why are you asking that? Li Yun said, It's obvious. Basic stance training is just the most basic martial art. It has no offensive capabilities. Whether you cultivate one true meaning or all of the true meaning, you can easily reach the 9th level of body tempering. But what happens after that? Once you reach a higher level, this stance training becomes basically unnecessary. Wouldn't it be a waste to spend so much time and energy on stance training? Upon hearing this, Zhang Chu's expression immediately turned strange. Boss, you're wrong about that. The results of cultivating one true meaning are completely different from those of cultivating 12 true meanings. What? Is there some special trick to this? Zhang Chu quickly looked around, his eyes showing some wariness. Boss, there's no one here. I'll tell you a secret quietly, but don't tell anyone else. Actually, there is a secret hidden in the basic stance training. I don't know what the secret is, but I heard my sister mention that in the first 100 years after the founding of the Tianwu sect, the newly entered outer disciples did not actually practice the basic stance training. Instead, they are other basic martial arts that can temper the body. In some ways, those martial arts may have a stronger body tempering effect than basic stance training. But at that time, the higher-ups of the Tianwu sect forcibly changed the rules, requiring all new martial artists to uniformly practice basic stance training. Boss, do you think there wouldn't be any problems with that? Now that you mention it, it's actually true. Li Yun seemed to be deep in thought. But the specific circumstances? I don't know the specifics, or rather, I'm not qualified to know. But now that you've cultivated the first kind of true meaning, you might as well cultivate all 12 kinds of true meaning. Perhaps, boss, you've truly set a precedent for the heavenly martial sect. At that time, you might be qualified to understand the secrets behind basic stance training, and I have a lot of confidence in you. Upon hearing this, Li Yun immediately rolled her eyes. Get out of here. That's easy for you to say. Do you know how much effort I put into mastering the basic stance training? Zhang Chu. Boss, you've gone too far with what you're saying. I have every reason to suspect that you're showing off. You've only been an initiator for a little over a month, and you've already mastered the first kind of true meaning. At this rate, you'll probably complete it all within a year. No, at most 6 months. So, compared to others, who actually puts in more effort. Li Yun sighed helplessly. He really wanted to say that what he was putting in wasn't effort, but martial arts knowledge points. The thought of having to spend as many as 650,000 knowledge points to fully master the 12 true meanings of basic stance training made him feel a pang of heartache. However, after Zhang Chu said that, he made a decision. Since the reverse fate technique was sufficient for the time being, he would first cultivate the remaining 11 true meanings of the basic stance technique. Chapter 25. As dawn breaks, an attack is imminent. Back at the Ren 95 courtyard, the two went back to their respective rooms. But Li Yun didn't stay in the room for long before quietly leaving again. We returned to the grove. Open the system panel. Host, Li Yun. Age, 16. Qualification, mid-rank 5. Identity, outer disciple of the 95th Academy of the Tianwu sect. Realm, acquired body tempering level 3. Martial arts, basic stance training perfected, silk reeling force perfected, reversal of fate technique initial, thunderclap fist proficient, flying star step proficient, can be expanded. Martial arts knowledge points, 1069, 565. Although he knew he couldn't accumulate martial arts knowledge points, Li Yun was still overjoyed to see 1,000,000 knowledge points listed on the panel. It was even more exciting than watching short videos. Collapse the panel. Li Yun then began work. I plan to master the 4 newly acquired martial arts techniques: Thunder Fist, Flying Star Step, Tiger Subduing Fist, and Eagle Claw skill one by one. These 4 martial arts techniques had already reached a level of proficiency when they were at Cang Yun residence. The next steps are minor achievement, mastery, major achievement, and perfection. On average, each martial art skill costs 78,000 points and takes about 3 hours to reach perfection. In this way, although his cultivation level hadn't changed, his combat power had increased dramatically. With the addition of Entangling Silk Force, it's equivalent to having 5 offensive, high-grade body tempering martial arts techniques at one's disposal, all of which have reached perfection. At this stage, it's absolutely unique among the 4 outer sect techniques of Zheng, Xin, Ren, and Gui. On the path of martial arts, every step ahead leads to further advancement. This gave Li Yun the absolute confidence to quickly stand out from the outer sect. However, this immediately reduced his newly acquired 1,000,000 knowledge points to only 757,565 points, which pained Li Yun so much that his lips trembled. He glanced at the system panel again. After the 5 martial arts techniques that had been perfected, such as Silk Reeling Force and Thunder Fist, the words "can be sublimated" appeared. Li Yun knew what that meant. As long as you are willing to spend more time and knowledge, you can grasp the true meaning after a period of spiritual growth. Take, for example, the Thunderclap Fist. According to Wang Huizong, if one can comprehend the essence of the Thunderclap Fist, one can generate a wisp of thunderous power on one's fist when killing an enemy. This special power is something that an ordinary physical body cannot withstand. Even martial artists who have cultivated internal energy to the refinement realm, if their internal energy is not deep enough, can be paralyzed by this thunderous power, or even suffer serious damage. It's practically a martial arts technique with special effects. Li Yunguang looked at it with envy. However, he didn't know how many knowledge points were needed to sublimate such martial arts. Right now, he still hoped to first master the remaining 11 true meanings of basic stance training, so he could only temporarily suppress the urge to sublimate immediately. Then the basic stance training begins to be refined. This was another comfortable process. Li Yun was increasingly enjoying this quiet contemplation, and then when he opened his eyes, it felt like 3 autumns had passed. Under the cover of night. However, 3 furtive figures slipped out from near C-77. The soft moonlight shone on their faces. It was Gu Yunzhang, his cousin He Tingfeng, and Su Yao. Yunzhang, what are you doing calling us out so late? Cousin, hurry, come with me. That guy Li Yun sneaked out of Ren 95 again tonight. This is a good opportunity. He Tingfeng's face darkened immediately upon hearing this. You came all this way so late just for this. Yes, I found an opportunity, so I came to tell you. You idiot. He Tingfeng was so angry that he trembled. Putting aside the fact that Tianwu sect is so big and it's nighttime, making it difficult for us to find Li Yun, the fact that you came to Bing's 77 courtyard looking for us so late at night means you're out of your mind. Do you really think others are blind? If something goes wrong, all 3 of us will be finished, you understand? Gu Yunzhang was somewhat at a loss after being scolded like this. He accidentally discovered that Li Yun had slipped out and thought it was a good opportunity. His first thought was to inform He Tingfeng without giving it any other consideration. All right, Tingfeng, don't blame him for now. I think we can give it a try tonight. If we can find the person, we can disguise ourselves and teach Li Yun a painful lesson. Su Yao looked at Gu Yunzhang. But the problem is, can you pinpoint Li Yun's location? Gu Yunzhang was grateful to Su Yao for speaking up for him. He glanced at He Tingfeng and cursed inwardly. What a load of rubbish cousin. He always brags, but when it comes to real trouble, he's timid and cowardly. He deserves to have stayed for 2 years and still not be able to reverse his innate nature. He's just a piece of trash. Once I, Gu Yun, am promoted to the inner sect, let's see if I'll even give you a second glance. Gu Yunzhang was quite confident in his talent. With a first-grade aptitude, if he couldn't reverse his innate nature and enter the inner sect within 3 years, then the martial sect wouldn't have so many inner sect disciples. Senior brother Su, cousin, I know Li Yun's location. I heard from someone today that Li Yun has been going to practice martial arts alone in a small grove on the west side of Ren 95 courtyard these past few days. I think that he is most likely going out in that grove so late at night. The grove. He Tingfeng and Su Yao's eyes lit up. What a great place. The night was dark and the wind was high, and it was in a secluded grove of trees. Wasn't this the perfect opportunity to make a move? The 2 were perfectly in sync and immediately decided to make their move that very night. Make a move as soon as possible, earn some money from Gu Yunzhang, buy a few qi and blood pills, and try to break through. Who knows, you might be able to cultivate internal energy and enter the refining force realm. That's right. Although He Tingfeng is Gu Yunzhang's cousin, he didn't help out for nothing this time. To get He Tingfeng and Su Yao to help, Gu Yunzhang went all out, promising 1,000 taels of the 3,000 taels of silver he brought from home. 1,000 taels is equivalent to 10 qi and blood pills. For these 10 qi and blood pills, He Tingfeng and Su Yao decided to take a risk. Yunzhang, go back right now. Remember, no matter what happens, pretend you don't know anything, go back to sleep. If you manage to deal with Li Yun tonight, we'll let you know tomorrow or some other time. Yes. Gu Yunzhang was overjoyed. After sincerely thanking he and Su, he hurried back to Ren 95 courtyard. Once back, he lay down and fell asleep immediately, not thinking about anything, just waiting to receive good news after dawn. At the same time, He Tingfeng and Su Yao did not immediately go to the grove of trees that Gu Yunzhang had mentioned, but instead returned to courtyard C-77 to continue sleeping. Just before dawn, when everyone was fast asleep, the 2 quietly got up, changed into night clothes, covered their faces with black cloth, and ghostly slipped out of C-77 courtyard, heading straight for the grove of trees that Gu Yunzhang had mentioned. Chapter 26, Fighting the Enemy, Cognition Points +30. Dawn was breaking. A gentle breeze suddenly blew into the grove. Li Yun felt a cool sensation and immediately opened his eyes. One glance, and a burst of brilliant light shone forth. Second and third stakes, the sublimation is complete. I have obtained the two true meanings of plum blossoms and clouds and water. This once again proves that improving one's aptitude is helpful for comprehending martial arts. If I still had the original 5th grade aptitude instead of the middle 5th grade, I could only advance to the 3rd level at most tonight. Unlike now, I could very well have perfected the 4th one before dawn. Tusk. There's still time. Let's rest for a bit and try out the new insights we've gained. A swift and decisive turnaround. Li Yun then immediately set up the second plum blossom stake. Indeed, the true meaning flowed forth. It's a different feeling from the previous true meaning of green pine. It's as if you've arrived in the dead of winter, where the earth is covered with ice and snow, and all life is withered. Only on the mountaintop, a plum blossom blooms, unafraid of the severe cold. A cool sensation entered my body with each breath. It felt like falling into an ice cave, yet I could clearly feel subtle changes taking place in my body. Immediately afterwards, he changed the pile method to the 3rd pile, the cloud and water pile. It feels even stranger. A dreamlike yet real flowing water coursed through my body, as if I were immersed in a deep pool, every pore of my body opening up, greedily absorbing some kind of spiritual energy, making my body feel light, as if I were about to float to the surface from the deep water. That was awesome. Indeed, each of the 12 basic stances is full of profound mysteries. The creator of such a basic martial art, which can be adapted to everyone, must be extraordinary. His understanding of martial arts must have reached an extremely high level. Li Yun quietly contemplated the matter. Suddenly, a strange feeling arose. A powerful force suddenly surged within his body, causing his blood and qi to rush through his veins. Body tempering level 4. Holy crap, his cultivation level has actually increased by another level. Li Yun was pleasantly surprised. I tried throwing a punch, and immediately felt that my fist was more powerful when it hit the air, and I could vaguely feel the wind whistling through the air. I have at least 400 pounds of strength. Add to that 5 perfected martial arts techniques, tusk. Even if those senior disciples who have reached the 5th or 6th level of body tempering came, I would probably beat them to death. Li Yun unleashed a series of punches, employing the thunderclap fist taught by Huang Huizong. Each punch was like a thunderbolt, characterized by its swift and domineering force. The more I fought, the more comfortable I felt. But he stopped very quickly, a slight hesitation appearing on his face. I was a little unsatisfied that I couldn't unleash the thunderous power Elder Huang mentioned. How about we refine this fist technique first? Anyway, it will take at least 2 or 3 days to fully comprehend the true meaning of the basic stance training. During this time, I can accumulate some more martial arts knowledge points. I'm not worried about the thunderclap fist taking away my martial arts knowledge points. A sudden attraction. Li Yun didn't care about anything else. He simply closed his eyes and directly chose the sublimation, Thunder Fist. Whoosh! In an instant, 100,000 martial arts knowledge points disappeared. The system activated its power, causing a tremor in the brain. In an instant, Li Yun felt as if he had fallen into a dark void, and a bolt of lightning flashing with brilliant white light suddenly appeared. It was as if the dark sky had been torn apart and cleaved down fiercely. An overwhelming aura immediately shocked Li Yun beyond measure. This feeling is completely different from the previous sublimation of basic stance training. The previous sublimation gave him a quiet and peaceful feeling. But at this moment, it was all about violence and the destruction of everything. He even had the illusion that if it weren't for the system's support, his mental will might have been destroyed by this thunder if he hadn't been careful. All I can say is that everything seemed rather domineering. Fortunately, this realization came quickly, much faster than the sublimation of basic stance training. It took about 15 minutes in total. Li Yun regained his senses, as if waking from a deep dream. His eyes still held a lingering fear after the shock. An instinctive fear of the power of heaven and earth. But the next second, a bright smile bloomed on his face. When he smiled, a fleeting glint of lightning flashed in his eyes. Thunderous fist intent. Using the divine as a guide, one can condense the thunderous energy between heaven and earth, transform it into thunderous power that one can control, and then fuse it into fist force to kill the enemy. How much power this fist intent can unleash depends entirely on my own mental strength. With my current mental strength, I can only unleash the thunderclap fist intent 3 times a day. Any more and I will be injured. But that's enough. I'm not going to be high profile or arrogant, and I'm also within the heavenly martial sect, where there are sect rules that restrict me. I'm afraid I won't have a chance to make a move for several months. Li Yun was happily thinking about it, and his smile suddenly froze. 2 figures suddenly appeared in the woods, dressed in black and masked. Even a fool could tell from their attire that they were no good. His first thought was, could this be someone sent by Zhao Chuanfeng? Could it be that Zhao Chuanfeng thought that the reverse fate technique couldn't harm him, so he sent 2 more people to deal with him? Run! Without a second thought, Li Yun turned and ran. If it was someone sent by Zhao Chuanfeng, he didn't think he would be able to resist. His running away infuriated He Tingfeng and Su Yaowu, who had just arrived in the woods. Goodness, they're actually quite alert. Without saying a word, the 2 chased after him. With their strength at the 9th level of body tempering, their burst speed was significantly greater than Li Yun's. In the blink of an eye, He Tingfeng then overtook Li Yun, leaping over his head and throwing a punch at him, forcefully stopping Li Yun's sprinting momentum. It's not as strong as I thought. This doesn't seem to be someone sent by Zhao Chuanfeng. Li Yun was not surprised, but rather pleased that his momentum was thwarted. He pretended to panic and took a few steps back, then angrily questioned, "Who are you? Why are you targeting me? Aren't you afraid of the rules of the heavenly martial sect?" "Bah, the rules of the heavenly martial sect are worthless. We can't stand people like you who have only recently joined the sect and are already so arrogant and domineering because of your inner sect background. We've come here today to teach you a lesson." He Tingfeng deliberately lowered his voice and roared, as if he had some deep hatred for Li Yun. Then he rushed towards Li Yun and threw a fierce punch. All done. They weren't sent by Zhao Chuanfeng. If they really were, how could they not know that I don't actually have any inner sect background, and I certainly wouldn't be this weak? Facing He Tingfeng's swift punch, Li Yun sneered inwardly and suddenly changed his footwork. A perfect flying star step flashed by. His body deftly dodged He Tingfeng's fist, and he slid to the right of He Tingfeng, then unleashed a swift and fierce eagle claw attack, tearing towards He Tingfeng's right shoulder. Tear it apart. In an instant, the 5 fingers tore open He Tingfeng's night clothes on his right shoulder, and also tore open his right upper arm with several bloody marks. A piece of flesh the size of a palm was torn off. A blood-curdling scream rang out instantly. At that moment, the system vibrated. Fighting against a 9th-level body tempering martial artist. Cognition points, 27 thunderous fist intent kills He Tingfeng. You can imagine the pain of having a piece of flesh torn from your arm. He Tingfeng no longer cared about attacking Li Yun. He covered his wound and retreated hastily, letting out screams of agony. In the dim forest, it was incredibly eerie. On the other side, Su Yaowu was already shocked before he could even make a move. He blurted it out on the spot. Impossible. He's just an outer disciple who's only been in the sect for a month or so. Shouldn't he still be practicing stance training and building a foundation? How could he have any offensive capabilities? And so fierce. This is completely unreasonable. Regardless, Su Yaowu realized that Li Yun was not as weak as he had imagined, and since they had already made their move, there was no turning back. We had no choice but to bite the bullet and go for it. Kill. The next second, Su Yao charged towards Li Yun. Compared to He Tingfeng, Su Yaowu, whose strength was unleashed, was clearly faster and more agile, with his hands rapidly changing between fists, palms, and claws. The moment they reached Li Yun, they put considerable pressure on him. This is the martial art that Su Yaowu obtained from the armory after mastering the basic stance training. 9 forms of the spirit ape, a martial art derived from the fighting of apes, which focuses on agility and speed. This martial art is considered top grade, even in the body tempering realm. After a year of cultivation and comprehension, Su Yaowu has reached the level of mastery. He is just one step away from achieving mastery. When used in conjunction with his 9th level of body tempering cultivation, its power is naturally considerable. However, Li Yun was no pushover either. Although he only has the cultivation level of the 4th level of body tempering, he possesses 5 high-grade martial arts skills in the body tempering realm, and each of them has reached perfection. Among them, the Thunder Fist has been sublimated to the Thunder Fist intent. If one's cultivation level is insufficient, one can make up for it with martial arts skills. The power of coiling silk, flying star step, tiger tamming fist, eagle claw kung fu. These 4 martial arts techniques, which have not yet been perfected, are continuously unleashed, changing at will according to the mind's desire, sometimes as fierce as a tiger, sometimes as gentle as a snake. In particular, the entangling silk force is a soft and unpredictable force. In the midst of a fight, if Su Yaowu is not careful, his arm will be entangled by Li Yun. If it weren't for my quick reaction, Su Yaowu's hand might be twisted off by Li Yunsheng. In less than 2 minutes, Su Yaowu was already drenched in sweat, and the several close calls had left him terrified. Damn it, how can there be such a terrifying newcomer? Damn it, this time Gu Yunzhang, that bastard, really screwed me over. What a newbie. Even outer disciples, in their 3rd year of study, aren't this terrifying. If he had known earlier that Gu Yunzhang wanted them to deal with such a powerful person, he wouldn't have done it even for 5,000 taels of silver, let alone 1,000. Su Yaowu regretted it. But now they're in a bind, and even if they regret it, it's too late. No matter what, we must suppress Li Yun, otherwise the 2 of them will be in big trouble. His gaze shifted. But when Su Yaowu saw that the injured He Tingfeng was still standing there dumbfounded, clutching his wound with a blank expression, he was immediately furious. Without a second thought, he roared, "He Tingfeng, what the hell are you standing there for? You're only slightly injured, not dead, so hurry up and join forces to take this kid down." Under normal circumstances, Su Yaowu should not have called out He Tingfeng's name. But he couldn't care less about that anymore. Li Yun's strength far exceeded his expectations. It was no longer realistic for him to completely defeat Li Yun in a one-on-one fight. He had to join forces with He Tingfeng to take down Li Yun as soon as possible. As for whether leaking He Tingfeng's name will cause trouble, of course there will be. However, he was already determined to take down Li Yun once he captured him. Anyway, it was still dark and there was no one around. After killing Li Yun, we could just bury him on the spot and leave no trace. At most, he would just be considered missing. Every year, Tianwu sect has more than 1 or 2 disciples who mysteriously disappear without a trace, so Li Yun is no exception. He Tingfeng wasn't stupid. Upon hearing Su Yaowu call out his name, his eyes immediately sharpened. Die. He Tingfeng seized the opportunity and delivered a powerful punch to Li Yun from behind. Attack from both sides, with the main objective being a surprise attack. The plan was to use this punch to kill Li Yun, or at least seriously injure him. 2 idiots. That's exactly what we've been waiting for you to join forces. Li Yun's reaction was unusually fast. He mastered all 5 martial arts techniques, and one of them was even elevated, which brought him not only practical combat abilities, but also a mysterious and keen sense of perception. As soon as He Tingfeng moved, he could feel the surging airflow behind him. In an instant, his footsteps formed 7 stars, creating a dazzling rhythm beneath his feet, as if starlight were twinkling. In an instant, Li Yun's body flashed out amidst the 2 men's pincer attack. He Tingfeng's punch missed its mark. His body swayed slightly, somewhat unsteady. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Li Yun unleashed a furious punch. Thunderclap fist. Fist intent. Suddenly, the fist intent that had been forcibly suppressed for so long erupted silently, and a faint layer of lightning appeared out of thin air on the surface of the fist that was about to strike He Tingfeng. Ah, what is this? He Tingfeng sensed danger and subconsciously turned his head. A deep fear immediately appeared in his eyes. He then took a step back, frantically trying to retreat. But it was too late. That punch was incredibly fast. What was most terrifying was that intention, which seemed to have an invisible impact on He Tingfeng's spirit, causing him to freeze for a moment. Bang! In that brief moment of hesitation, Li Yun's fist landed squarely on He Tingfeng's body. The force of the punch, which was at least several hundred kilograms, slammed into He Tingfeng's right ribs, and the consequences were predictable. Click, click. His right rib was broken on the spot, and it caved inward. Even more terrifying was that a subtle power of thunder also erupted and penetrated into He Tingfeng's body. In an instant, his internal organs were burned, and his body flew away. He Tingfeng let out a painful and short scream. After landing, it simply stopped moving. Dead. Impossible, this is impossible. Damn Li Yun, you just wait. Su Yaowu was terrified, and immediately turned around and fled frantically out of the woods. He was terrified. 2 against 1, they couldn't defeat Li Yun. Instead, Li Yun killed He Tingfeng with a single punch. If the fight continued, He Tingfeng would also lose his life. He's not stupid. He wouldn't let himself die here. As for the trouble that follows, he can simply escape from Tianwu sect now. In any case, he can't possibly reverse the innate state within 3 years and advance to the inner sect. Whether he leaves sooner or later, he will have to leave Tianwu sect anyway. Even after leaving the Tianwu sect, if you find a way to continue improving your strength, you will still have a chance to seek revenge on Li Yun. Only. To his utter surprise, before he could escape the woods, a sudden gust of wind swept through the area. Before he knew what was happening, a sharp pain shot through his chest. The person was violently knocked away, flying backwards back into the woods. After landing, he rolled around wildly until he crashed into a tree trunk and finally came to a stop. Blood kept gushing from the eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. Li Yun was equally stunned. He turned his head sharply and was immediately filled with surprise and delight. Senior Sister Zhang, what brings you here? Chapter 28, Senior Sister Zhang, you're quite adept at this. Aren't you surprised? But I came here to find you. Who knew I'd run into something like this? Zhang Ruhan shrugged, just like before, without any airs, and seemed to treat Li Yun as a friend. Looking for me? Senior Sister Zhang, you can't be serious. It's so late, oh wait, it's almost dawn. Why are you looking for me at this hour? Li Yun glanced at Su Yaowu, who was still spitting blood and whose chest was caved in. It was obvious that he was about to die, so he didn't bother with him. He walked towards Zhang Ruhan. Senior Sister Zhang, what can I do for you? We'll talk about this later. Zhang Ruhan flashed in front of Su Yaowu, and with a wave of her hand, she grabbed Su Yaowu from a distance. Explain. Who gave you permission to cause trouble for Li Yun? Senior Sister, spare me. Su Yaowu was filled with fear. He hadn't expected that causing trouble for Li Yun would have such serious consequences. Not only was Li Yun's strength unexpectedly powerful, but now even an inner sect senior sister had appeared. If he had known it would turn out like this, he would never have dared to try and earn that little bit of money from Gu Yunzhang. At a time like this, he dared not hide anything. He directly explained that Gu Yun had spent money to hire him, and he Ting Feng to deal with Li Yun. Gu Yunzhang. It was him. Li Yun was genuinely surprised. To be honest, he didn't really take Gu Yunzhang seriously. He was actually more worried about Zhao Chuanfeng and Liu Ningkong, because these two were not only inner disciples, but also treacherous. To his utter surprise, before those two dangerous guys could even cause him any trouble, Gu Yunzhang had already secretly come looking for someone. Most importantly, there was no irreconcilable hatred between him and Gu Yunzhang. At most, it was just a minor conflict, which stemmed from Gu Yunzhang's own narrow-mindedness. All I can say is, this is just human nature. Out of jealousy, fearing that he would steal the limelight from him in the Ren 95 Academy, he wanted to secretly teach him a lesson, even cripple him, and force him to leave the Tianwu sect. What a ridiculous reason. However, regardless of how absurd this matter was, Li Yun had at least made a note of Gu Yunzhang. I need to find an opportunity to get revenge for what happened tonight. He's not the kind of saint who can pretend nothing happened after being plotted against. So he didn't say a word. With a raised fist, he landed on Su Yaowu. The thunderous fist intent slammed into Su Yaowu's body. Su Yaowu, who was already seriously injured, groaned and died on the spot. After unleashing 2 consecutive bursts of thunderous fist intent, Li Yun also felt a slight dizziness. But after shaking his head, he returned to normal. It can only be said that the consumption of the thunderclap fist intent by unleashing it twice in a row was indeed considerable, but its destructive power was quite impressive, which made Li Yun very satisfied. Even feeling fortunate. If it weren't for the impromptu decision to enhance the thunderclap fist, he might not have survived until Zhang Ruohan arrived, as he was facing the combined attack of He Tingfeng and Su Yunwu, both at the 9th level of body tempering, all by himself. I'm lucky to be alive tonight. Compared to that, the shock of killing for the first time in my life, especially killing 2 people in a row, was not so strong. Instead, it made him realize more deeply that possessing martial power naturally breeds murderous intent. If you're not ruthless, you can't stand firm. If you don't want to be killed for some inexplicable reason, you have to kill others first. In the face of life and death, right and wrong are irrelevant. Zhang Ruohan watched quietly as Li Yun killed Su Yaowu, neither stopping him nor criticizing him, but her bright eyes sparkled. Thunderous fist intent. You actually mastered the thunderclap fist passed down to you by Huang Huizong to this level in just 1 day. Your talent is truly unbelievable. However, you should still try to tone it down a bit in the future. Although the Tianwu sect values rules and regulations, it doesn't mean that dark things won't happen. If someone is wary of your talent, they might harbor malicious thoughts and do something despicable. Li Yun quickly cupped her hands in thanks. Thank you for the reminder, senior sister Zhang. I will be careful. You're too kind. Although I haven't known you for long, there's no need for us to be so formal. Oh, by the way, it's almost dawn. Come with me later to an interesting place. Okay, but... Li Yun didn't ask where they went, but his gaze swept over the corpses of He Tingfeng and Su Yaowu. Zhang Ruohan knew what he meant, and directly took out a small porcelain bottle from her bosom. Here you go, this is corpse-dissolving powder. Pour a little bit on their wounds, and everything will be completely undetectable. Li Yun's eyes lit up immediately. Corpse-dissolving powder. This is great stuff. Without hesitation, he took the porcelain bottle and walked to the 2 corpses, pouring a little onto their wounds. The specks of white powder landed on the wounds, instantly producing a hissing sound. In a short while, the 2 corpses turned into a pool of yellowish blood that seeped directly into the ground. Even the clothes on the 2 of them had become tattered and rotten. With a wave of her hand, Zhang Ruohan conjured up a wisp of air that swept up and covered a large number of fallen leaves, making them completely invisible. Li Yun was so surprised that he couldn't help but make a joke. "Senior Sister Zhang, your technique is very skillful." As he spoke, he prepared to return the corpse-dissolving powder. Zhang Ruohan rolled her eyes. "You'll be very good at it, too. You don't need to return the corpse-dissolving powder, it's yours." Li Yun was speechless for a moment. What does this mean? Is this asking whether he will need the body-dissolving powder again in the future? No way, he's so kind. But the next second, he still hid the small porcelain bottle containing the corpse-dissolving powder in his bosom. Then, the two walked out of the woods side by side. "Senior Sister Zhang, where are we going? Should I go back and call Zhang Chu?" Zhang Ruohan rolled her eyes and said irritably, "Why call that kid? He's useless anyway, he'll only cause trouble." No, come with me first. That place is outside the territory of the Heavenly Martial Sect. It will take a while. Give me your hand." "Give me your hand." Li Yun was a little embarrassed. "Senior Sister Zhang, this isn't quite right." Zhang Ruohan glared at him and said, "What's wrong with it? I'm a woman and I haven't said anything, but you, a grown man, are acting all coy. What's wrong with you?" "Depend on." Upon hearing this, Li Yun's pride was immediately aroused. "The way you're saying that makes it sound like I'm afraid of women. If you're not afraid, then what am I afraid of?" Li Yun readily extended his hand. Zhang Ruohan rolled her eyes, then reached out and took Li Yun's hand. Li Yun's heart skipped a beat. She was so delicate and boneless. I couldn't resist squeezing it a little harder. Zhang Ruohan just rolled her eyes at him again, without saying anything more. Suddenly, a strong force came from the hand she was holding, pulling his whole body into the air. In an instant, the two of them sped away like arrows released from a bow. In just a few breaths, he had vanished. Chapter 29, Valley at the bottom of the cliff, unnamed sword technique. The wind, sharp as knives and swords, swept over my face, making every inch of my skin ache. Li Yun felt was particularly exaggerated. Zhang Ruohan dragged him along, their feet barely touching the ground, yet their speed was like that of a sports car speeding at full speed, at least 300 kilometers per hour. His heart was pounding so hard, it felt like it was going to jump out of his throat. If something goes wrong, and he doesn't have time to turn and crashes into the mountainside or a tree, can he still be saved? Fortunately, this did not happen. After a period of rapid travel, after about an hour, the two stopped above a valley. Li Yun was still a little dizzy. Seeing that the place where he had stopped was just one step away from the cliff, he was so frightened that he shrank back several steps. Zhang Ruohan looked at him with a mischievous glint in her eye. "How does it feel? Isn't it exciting?" Li Yun was utterly speechless. She complained, "Senior Sister Zhang, are you leading me on a journey or carrying me to new heights? Could you please remind me next time? You're making me want to throw up." Then look around. It was all a desolate wilderness, and the pavilions and towers of the Tianwu sect could no longer be seen. However, he was certain that this place should still be within the Tiandong mountain range. "Senior Sister Zhang, where is this? Why did you bring me here?" Zhang Ruohan blinked. "Guess." Perhaps because there was no one else around, Zhang Ruohan became more relaxed. She, who was already very approachable, even started joking with Li Yun. Seeing this, Li Yun stopped pretending. "What nonsense. You brought me here, how would I know what we're here for? But I don't think it's because you saw me as young, handsome, and talented that you fell in love with me at first sight and brought me here for a date, right?" Snap. Zhang Ruohan gave Li Yun a flick on the forehead on the spot. Li Yun winced in pain. He then realized how miserable Zhang Chu was, constantly getting a sharp rap on the head from Zhang Ruohan. Having such a violent older sister was definitely not a happy thing. "You wish. Look at that valley below. I discovered it by chance." Zhang Ruohan pointed towards the cliff, and Li Yun subconsciously turned his head to look. But before he could figure out what was going on, he suddenly felt someone kick him. That one kick sent him flying off the cliff. Ugh. Li Yun was so frightened that his heart almost stopped, and he let out a scream on the spot. But it didn't work. After a brief pause, the body plummeted downwards. Heth, you dare to flirt with me. I'll teach you a lesson you won't forget. Zhang Ruhan, however, acted as if nothing had happened, smiled with a mischievous grin, and then leisurely jumped out, falling rapidly downwards as well. Her descent speed was clearly much faster than Li Yun's. Before long, they caught up with Li Yun. Senior Sister Zhang. My dearest Senior Sister Zhang, please don't do this to me. I'm still a minor, I'm still a child. Upon seeing Zhang Ruhan again, Li Yun was so excited he almost cried. It's no exaggeration to say he almost peed his pants the moment he landed. It's not that I'm afraid of death, it's that I'm genuinely afraid of death. The valley below this cliff is conservatively estimated to be at least 300 meters high, which in my previous life would be about the height of a 100-story building. What decent person wouldn't be scared to fall from a 100-story building? Without thinking twice, he quickly reached out and hugged Zhang Ruhan. They held each other tightly. When Zhang Ruhan was suddenly hugged by Li Yun, a slight blush appeared on her pretty face. She had never been hugged like this before, not even by her nominal fiancé, Zhao Chunfeng. The aura emanating from Li Yun was a scent unlike any other woman's, causing even her heart to race. However, she still tried her best to act normal. HMPH, let's see if you dare to flirt with me again. I won't dare to do it again. I'll never dare to do it again. That's more like it. Zhang Ruhan smiled with satisfaction, pried Li Yun's arm off, and grabbed his body again. A surge of power rushed out, and Li Yun immediately noticed that his rapid descent had miraculously slowed down. Then, a little while later, the two landed steadily on the ground. Only then did Li Yun feel his soul return to his head. He said with a face full of resentment, Senior Sister Zhang, can we not do this next time? You scare people to death. What's there to be afraid of? Once you defy your innate nature and learn the true art of lightness, you'll find that this height is nothing at all. But the problem is, I'm only at the body tempering realm right now. Zhang Ruhan was speechless. She had almost forgotten that this guy was indeed only at the body tempering realm, and it was a bit too early to talk to him about this. Immediately, she straightened her expression. Okay, enough joking around. Look at this valley, what can you find? Upon hearing this, Li Yun subconsciously looked up and scanned his surroundings. Below the cliff is a circular valley, surrounded by sheer cliffs with only one entrance. Strong winds occasionally blow in from the direction of the entrance, making a wailing sound. This sound is strange. It contained a hint of sadness. If you're not careful, the sound alone can be misleading, making you think it's a sad person sobbing and crying, which sounds extremely distressing. When he focused his gaze on the valley entrance, the system actually reacted. Observing the rhythm of the wind, cognitive points plus 10. Observing the rhythm of the wind, cognitive points plus 10. This wind, something's not right. Li Yun muttered to himself, then quickly opened the system and glanced at the panel. Host, Li Yun. Age, 16. Qualification, mid-rank 5. Identity, outer disciple of the 95th Academy of the Tianwu sect. Realm, acquired body tempering level 4. Martial arts, unnamed sword technique, loading 1%. Basic stance training, perfected. Silk reeling force, perfected. Reversal of fate technique, initial. Thunderclap fist, fist intent. Flying star step, perfected. Expandable. Martial arts knowledge points, 600,000. Originally, I had 1,069,565 cognition points. I used 312,000 points to upgrade 4 martial arts to perfection. Then, I upgraded the second and third stances and the Thunder Fist, which took away another 200,000 points. I should have had 557,565 points left. However, his later battles with He Ting Feng and Su Yaowu unexpectedly increased his cognition points, bringing them back to 600,000. However, that's not the point. The key point is that Li Yun actually found an unnamed sword technique in the martial arts section, and it was loading, although the loading speed was a bit slow. He was a little puzzled. After focusing my attention on that column, unnamed sword technique, I suddenly realized what it meant. It is a natural sword technique contained in Gugu Fengzhang, but because his aptitude is too low, only at the 5th rank, he cannot generate the martial art immediately upon observing it. We need to wait for him to observe for a while longer, until he has fully loaded the information, before we can proceed with the upgrade that consumes cognitive points. Chapter 30 Gu Yunzhang's Excitement. Li Yun was deeply shocked. That's really unbelievable. A naturally generated wind blowing into the valley can actually create a sword technique. Moreover, judging from its appearance, it's not an ordinary martial art. It's at least more powerful than Thunder Fist, Tiger Subduing Fist, Flying Star Step, and Eagle Claw Kung Fu. It should be noted that when we watched Elder Huang Huizong and the other 2 elders demonstrate their martial arts, the system did not load the martial arts so slowly. Therefore, Li Yun also developed a strong interest. At this time, Zhang Ruohan was also observing Li Yun's expression. She noticed that Li Yun's expression changed very clearly, and there was even a hint of surprise in it. Her eyes also flashed with a sharp light. She took a step forward and stood shoulder to shoulder with Li Yun. It seems I made the right decision bringing you here. You must have noticed the unusual wind at the valley entrance, right? Senior Sister Zhang, you're amazing. You even managed to find a place like this. Yes, I can feel it. The howling wind at the valley entrance carries a mysterious rhythm, seemingly concealing a profound martial art, perhaps a sword technique never before seen in the world. Li Yun was putting what he had just learned into practice, speaking in a simple and natural tone. Zhang Ruohan's eyes lit up as she listened, and she gave Li Yun a thumbs up. Your insight and comprehension are truly amazing. I discovered this place by chance, and it's been half a year now. Whenever I have time, I come here secretly to take a look and observe it for a long time. Only recently have I dared to confirm that a sword technique can be developed in this wind. You've only been here once, and you can make an accurate judgment with just one glance. I give up. Take a look quickly. Can you comprehend the sword technique in the wind? Zhang Ruohan's face was full of anticipation. Li Yun understood that Zhang Ruohan must not have been confident in comprehending the sword technique herself, so she brought him here hopping to learn it through him. But of course, he couldn't answer too readily. He pretended to hesitate for a moment. Only then did they give a more conservative answer. We can give it a try, but it might take a few days. This seemingly composed answer stunned Zhang Ruohan. Only a few days. My goodness, this is a natural sword technique, inherently imbued with sword intent, and it's complex, unpredictable, and impossible to discern. Comprehending it is no less than creating your own sword technique. If you can really figure it out in a few days, I'll be completely convinced. Then I'll owe you a favor, and I'll do whatever you need me to do. Li Yun was amused by this. He had never seen Zhang Ruohan so flustered before. A hint of mockery arose in his heart. Senior Sister Zhang, don't go too far with your words. Are you really going to agree to any condition? As Li Yun spoke, he deliberately glanced at Zhang Ruohan's delicate body. To be honest, besides being beautiful, Zhang Ruohan also has a fantastic figure. She has curves in all the right places, making her absolutely stunning and captivating. Even though it was just a joke, Li Yun couldn't help but subconsciously swallow again. Just the next second, a sharp pain shot through his head. Zhang Ruohan's thumb had already landed hard on the head. What are you thinking about? You seemed pretty honest before, but I never expected you to be such a pervert. Let me tell you, I have a fiancé, so don't you dare try anything with me, or I'll make you regret it. Zhang Ruhan deliberately waved her fist at Li Yun. Pretend to be fierce. Little did he know that this pretense only added a touch of playfulness, making Li Yun find it particularly pleasing to the eye and stirring a ripple in his heart. Suddenly, a bold idea popped into my head. Zhao Chuanfeng was trying to frame me and prevent me from going to the Vermilion Bird Academy, so I secretly snatched Zhang Ruhan away to piss that bastard off. Once this thought takes root, it grows like weeds, impossible to suppress. But Li Yun, however, was not in a hurry to act. Instead, they suddenly became serious. They even started to complain. "Senior Sister Zhang, can you please not be so violent? I'm not Zhang Chu. Besides, I didn't say anything. I just wanted to say that if I comprehend it, I'll let you exchange a martial art with me. You didn't even let me say anything, and you already got the wrong idea." It really is. Zhang Ruhan was stunned, staring blankly at Li Yun's handsome face, a blush quickly rising on her pretty cheeks. Well, you can meditate here first. I'll go get you something to eat." After saying that, Zhang Ruhan ran away as if fleeing. With a leap, her figure rose rapidly up the cliff like a cloud. The cliff, which was more than 300 meters high, was like flat ground in front of Zhang Ruhan. Li Yun was stunned, his eyes filled with envy. What amazing movement skills. Is this the power of a Xiantian expert? No, I must improve my strength as soon as possible. Only when I have such strength can I truly protect myself and truly roam freely in this world. Immediately, Li Yun then turned around and sat down near the valley entrance. I'm going to listen carefully to the wind and see if I can hear anything mysterious. But the truth is, it's simply not possible. Aside from the constantly increasing cognitive points generated by the system, there was nothing else to see, and the loading speed of the unnamed sword technique was far too slow. I joked with Zhang Ruhan for a while, and quite some time has passed, but the loading progress has only reached 2%. At this rate, it probably won't be fully loaded in less than a day. We can only wait. But the waiting time was too boring, so Li Yun simply started practicing the basic stance technique again, directly sublimating the fourth stance. Ren 95 Institute. Gu Yunzhang woke up early in the morning and couldn't wait to go to the courtyard. Pretending to practice stance training. While cultivating, he secretly observed everything in the courtyard, but he still couldn't find Li Yun's figure, which made him secretly happy. Did my cousin and the others succeed? Should we cripple Li Yun, or? The thought of another possible outcome made Gu Yunzhang's heart beat a little faster, filled with both fear and excitement. He thought, what if he could really make Li Yun disappear forever? He will still be the chief of Ren 95 Academy. With his qualifications, it's not impossible for him to compete for the chief of Ren in the future, become one of the top 10 chiefs of the outer sect, and enjoy the honor, status, and even privileges granted by the sect. I imagined that wonderful future. Gu Yunzhang's mood became excited without him realizing it, and even the standing meditation that he usually found difficult to practice seemed to become much easier. Before you know it, he's completed the 8th task. Now he was even more excited. Today is truly my good day. Ha, Li Yun, what are you? You dare to fight against me, Gu Yun, you might as well die. Chapter 30, One Innate Sword Technique. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Li Yun seemed to have vanished into thin air, never to reappear. Zhang Chu couldn't find Li Yun anywhere in the Ren 95 courtyard, and even went to the grove where Li Yun often went, but still couldn't find him. He immediately became anxious. He found Su Qing, the martial arts steward, and told him that Li Yun was missing and might have run into trouble. They also hoped that Su Qing could help them find Li Yun's whereabouts. Su Qing knew that Li Yun was already a person registered with Elder Zhang Kong, and his sudden disappearance was definitely not a good thing, so he hurriedly arranged for the disciples of Ren 95 Academy to search for him. Gu Yunzhang, who had a guilty conscience, turned pale with fright. Fortunately, neither Su Qing nor Zhang Chu noticed him. After arranging for the disciples of Ren 95 Academy to find him, the two of them hurriedly went to see Zhang Kong. But the result? Li Yun is missing. Nonsense. Don't talk nonsense. Li Yun just went to a special place and will probably be back in a few days. Don't make a fuss. Su Qing and Zhang Chu were completely dumbfounded. It turns out they made a huge misunderstanding and worried for nothing. Su Qing, hurry back and tell the disciples of Ren 95 Academy to stop looking. It's such a small matter. Why are you making such a fuss? But when you get back, don't talk nonsense. Especially you, Zhang Chu, keep your mouth shut. Li Yun went out with your sister. Your sister needs Li Yun's help with something. Don't blab and cause trouble for Li Yun, understand? Upon hearing this, Zhang Chu immediately misunderstood. Good heavens, my sister took Li Yun away without a word and didn't even tell me. Sneaking around, could they be? Thinking of this, he suddenly shuddered. He gritted his teeth in silence. You bastard, Li Yun. I treated you like a brother and made you my boss, but you want to be my brother-in-law. Damn it. Wait till you get back and see how I deal with you. That being said, the two hurriedly returned to Ren 95 courtyard, stopping the disciples who were about to search for someone. I misunderstood. Li Yun has gone back to his hometown recently due to some business. Everyone, don't be nervous. Just continue with your daily routines and focus on your cultivation. Did they go back to their hometown? Are you kidding me? Hearing Su Qing's reasoning, Gu Yunzhang didn't believe a single word of it. Once you've entered the heavenly martial sect, how can you simply go back whenever you want? If you're not an inner disciple, you don't have any freedom of entry and exit at all. Gu Yunzhang thought that Su Qing had probably already discovered that Li Yun had met with misfortune, and fabricated such an excuse in order not to cause panic among the disciples of Ren 95 Academy. As time went on, people started saying that Li Yun had gone back to his hometown, suddenly didn't want to practice martial arts anymore, and wouldn't be coming back. Who would have thought that Li Yun was already dead? Thinking of this, Gu Yunzhang felt very relieved. But then he suddenly became worried. If Li Yun was already dead, why hadn't he heard from his cousin yet? Is it to avoid being discovered that they deliberately kept quiet? Yes, that should be true. After all, they had killed an outer disciple. Given his cousin He Ting Feng's nature, he would probably wait until things calmed down, and he was sure no one would suspect them before making any moves. With that thought in mind, Gu Yunzhang stopped taking the matter to heart. He decided to wait 2 more days and see. If his cousin still hadn't arrived, he would find an excuse to go to Hospital C-77 to look for him. In the valley, Li Yunduan remained seated, though a sense of helplessness welled up inside him. His judgment regarding the loading speed of the unnamed sword technique was still wrong. For 2 whole days, he had taken the opportunity to complete the 7th stage of his basic stance training, but the loading of his unnamed sword technique had only reached 97%, which was incredibly slow. Fortunately, it's almost finished. Moreover, he took this opportunity to continuously observe the wind at the valley entrance, working 12 hours a day, and resting, eating, and sleeping the rest of the time, gaining 10 knowledge points every second. Over the course of 2 days, I actually accumulated over 860,000 knowledge points. Adding the original 600,000 points, and deducting the 200,000 points consumed by upgrading 4 more stances, the total martial arts knowledge points once again exceeded 1 million, reaching 1,264,000 points. That was absolutely awesome. If the timing hadn't been unfavorable, he would have liked to refine the remaining 5 stances in one go, and then properly refine the other martial arts and the reversal of fate technique. Li Yun is now paying more and more attention to the reversal of fate technique, which can improve one's aptitude. because he had had enough of suffering from being too unqualified. In this valley, if his aptitude were even slightly higher, the loading speed of the unnamed sword technique wouldn't be so slow, and the knowledge points he gains per second wouldn't be only 10. In comparison, Zhang Ruhan, on the contrary, was much calmer. Because she knew how difficult it was to comprehend the innate sword technique from the entrance of this valley. Let alone 2 days, she would consider it remarkable if she could comprehend it in 2 months. So she wasn't in a hurry at all. Instead, they would actively hunt, bringing back animals like deer and rabbits for barbecue, occasionally adding some sweet and delicious fruits. This would satisfy the two people's food needs in the valley. Time gradually passed, and it became afternoon. Zhang Ruhan had just finished roasting a wild rabbit. It smelled delicious, with a golden color and dripping oil. It looked incredibly tempting, and she was just about to call Li Yun over to eat it. Suddenly, a look of joy appeared on Li Yun's face. Zhang Ruhan immediately closed her mouth again after she had just opened it. Her heart was pounding. No way, only 2 days. He's really going to grasp it. Regardless of whether it was true or not, she didn't dare to make a sound and just waited quietly to the side. And her eyesight is indeed excellent. Just now, the unnamed sword technique on the system panel has been loaded to 100%, displaying the words beginner. This means that he can improve through cognitive points. Without hesitation, Li Yun immediately chose to be promoted. The next second, of the 1,264,000 cognitive points, 200,000 were directly lost. Li Yun was so frightened that he trembled violently. Just kidding, the reverse fate technique that can improve aptitude is so powerful. It only cost him 10,000 knowledge points to go from 0 to entry level. This unnamed sword technique increases power 20-fold right away. On what grounds? What grade of martial arts is this? Is it really that exaggerated? At this rate of consumption, wouldn't it take several million knowledge points to upgrade this sword technique to perfection? Damn it, where is he going to get so many knowledge points? That's absolutely infuriating. However, there's a reason why things are expensive. As the saying goes, you get what you pay for, and that's always been true. About half an hour later, after Li Yun fully digested the information in his mind and formally mastered the unnamed sword technique, a bright smile appeared on his face. Only then did he realize that this sword technique had actually reached the innate level. It is a truly powerful martial art that requires innate true qi to activate, and he simply cannot cultivate this level of martial art now. I only managed to get started thanks to the system. But in just over 2 days, I learned a new martial art and also gained over 860,000 knowledge points. It wasn't a complete waste. Chapter 32, The 12 Palaces of Heaven. Senior Sister Zhang, may I borrow your sword? Li Yun opened his eyes and said calmly. Zhang Ruhan's eyes lit up. Without saying a word, she swept up the sword that had been lying on the ground and threw it at Li Yun. Li Yun caught the longsword with his right hand and put his left hand behind his back. The sword tip points diagonally at the ground. With his tall and slender figure, handsome face, and even a touch of youthful swordsman's demeanor, his temperament was impeccable, and it was impossible to find a single flaw in him. Senior Sister Zhang, watch closely. I will name this sword Techniquesaroful Wind. With a flick of the wrist, the sword rose with a sound. A swift sword shadow quickly extended, transforming into a curtain of swords. This single sword strike alone made Zhang Ruhan's eyes light up. She sensed that this sword technique seemed genuinely interesting. So he took a closer look. Immediately, the sword shadows continued uninterrupted, and there was a faint feeling of wind rising. As the sword momentum spread out, the sword shadows swayed and emitted a faint sword cry, like a sob. The sound, upon reaching her ears, subtly stirred a trace of emotion within Zhang Ruhan, inexplicably giving her a feeling of sadness. Zhang Ruhan was immediately horrified. Unbelievable. She is a genuine master of the innate realm, and her willpower is not as unshakable as a rock. But it is certainly not something that a martial arts novice like Li Yun, who is only at the body tempering realm, can shake. However, he managed to influence her through a sword technique he had just mastered. What does that mean? This means that if this sword technique were truly cultivated to a higher level, or even perfected, or even if its true meaning were comprehended, a single sword strike could likely cause her mental breakdown and plunge her into an inescapable illusion. The outcome is self-evident. What an amazing sword technique. Li Yun is even more amazing. In no time at all. After Li Yun finished using the sorrowful wind sword technique, he was still somewhat unsatisfied. Only after he truly mastered this sword technique did he realize its profound meaning, which was far superior to any martial art combined, including the thunderclap fist. The beginner level only scratches the surface. To truly unleash the full power of this sword technique, one needs a master with innate true chi. He was also particularly curious about the power of such a sword technique when wielded by a true master of innate talent. Then, over the next few days, Li Yun diligently taught Cang Yunju the sorrowful wind sword technique. As expected of a master of innate level, Cang Yunju quickly grasped the essence of Li Yun's teachings. After several attempts and rehearsals, she easily surpassed Li Yun's level. The 3 stages of beginner, intermediate, and advanced learning can be achieved almost seamlessly. The rate of improvement only slows down after reaching a certain level of proficiency. At this time, Cang Yunju held a sword in her hand, its 3-foot blade slicing through the void. A chilling sword aura erupted, enveloping the entire valley, and a fierce wind suddenly swept through the once silent valley. Sand and stones flew, and sword marks filled the sky. A heart-wrenching cry echoed as the sword curtain was drawn back. I heard only one sound. A surge of intense sorrow welled up in Li Yun's heart, almost tearing his heart apart. Immediately, he was completely lost in thought, utterly overwhelmed by this overwhelming sadness, unable to control himself. They didn't care about observing or learning anything. My mind is completely blank. My thoughts seem to freeze. Everything vanished suddenly. Only sorrow, sorrow, sorrow. I don't know how much time has passed. She woke up to Cang Yunju's calls. Looking into Cang Yunju's concerned eyes, Li Yun almost burst into tears. He revealed a smile that looked more like a grimace. Senior Sister Cang, can you please have some decency? How can you do this? You only care about your own sword practice and don't care about my life or death, do you? Do you know how uncomfortable it is for a nobody like me at the 4th level of body tempering when your overwhelming sword aura descends upon me? You know, at that moment, I truly felt that the whole world had abandoned me, and I was left all alone, crying and screaming, but there was no one to answer my cries. How hopeless. Cang Yunju couldn't help but laugh out loud, and unusually, she gently comforted Li Yun. Okay. I'll be more careful next time. I couldn't help myself, but it's your fault, isn't it? Who told you to comprehend such a powerful, sorrowful wind sword technique? Is this my fault? No, it's my fault. I was wrong. How about this, to thank you for your selfless teaching? Besides the martial arts I promised to exchange with you, I'll tell you a secret, okay? What secret? The secrets of basic stance training. Upon hearing this, Li Yun was immediately jolted awake. His eyes were shining. Is there really a secret to basic stance training? Speaking of this, Li Yun was no longer sad at all. Cang Yunju rolled her eyes. Looks like you know something. Did Zhang Chu tell you? Oh well, whatever. You were going to find out sooner or later anyway. Have you ever heard of the 12 palaces of heaven? Li Yun. Hey, Senior Sister Zhang, you really think of me as a senior disciple who's been here for many years. What's this about the 12 palaces of heaven? How would I know about that? Okay, that makes sense. Although the legend of the 12 palaces of Tianfu has a long history, not everyone has heard of it, so let me just briefly mention it to you. The 12 palaces of Heavenly Mansion was actually the strongest ancient sect in our Dongyun continent. At its peak, the entire Dongyun continent was under its rule. When the 12 heavenly palaces existed, Dongyun continent was practically a small kingdom. Unfortunately, it went extinct 2,000 years ago. It wasn't until about 700 years ago that the ruins of the 12 palaces of Tianfu reappeared. These ruins are located in the Tianfu Mountain in the center of Dongyun continent and are jointly guarded by the 4 top sects of Dongyun continent today. Although we have mastered this site, it's not something you can just enter casually. To enter the 12 palaces of Heavenly Palaces site, you need to meet one condition: comprehend the true meaning of the 12 basic stances. And the more the better. It is said that if one can fully comprehend all 12 true meanings of the 12 basic stances before the age of 18, one will have the opportunity to obtain the most important core inheritance of the 12 palaces of heaven. That inheritance is something that all 4 top sects desperately desire. Unfortunately, even after 700 years, although the 4 top sects have all intended to make basic stance training a basic martial art that must be learned before entering the sect, no one has been able to comprehend all 12 true meanings before the age of 18. But you are different. Zhang Ryuhan's eyes sparkled. You've only been a beginner for a short time, yet you've already achieved an amazing understanding of the basic stance training, and even grasped the true meaning of the first stance. If you put in more effort, you have a real chance to obtain the core inheritance of the 12 palaces of Heavenly Mansion. Chapter 33, I'm going into seclusion. Give me my money back. Senior Sister Zhang, is the inheritance of the 12 palaces of Heavenly Mansion very powerful? Is it very impressive? You can remove the impressive part. It's not just impressive, it's extremely impressive. Faced with Li Yun's doubts and curiosity, Zhang Ryuhan showed a look of certainty and longing, which was obviously a longing for the 12 palaces of heaven. The Tiangu continent is vast and boundless. Our Xushuan Yue kingdom is just a small country in the east of the Tiangu continent, but even in this small country, countless martial arts experts have been born. But do you know that in the 3,000 years since the founding of Xushuan Yue kingdom, there have been very few martial arts masters who have truly left Xushuan Yue kingdom to become powerful outside the country? The 12 palace masters of the 12 palaces of Tianfu have ventured out and established a great reputation. At one point, martial arts experts outside Xushuan Yue kingdom believed that the martial arts of our Xushuan Yue kingdom were flourishing and dared not easily provoke us. Even the Liaoshan dynasty, the suzerain state of our Xushuan Yue kingdom, looked up to us a little when the 12 palaces of heaven were still around, and provided us with a lot of convenience and resources for this. This is all because the 12 palace masters of the 12 palaces of Tianfu each possess a powerful unique skill, and these 12 unique skills can be combined into an unparalleled divine skill, the Tianfu divine skill. This Heavenly Mansion divine skill is a unique technique that allows martial artists to directly reach the realm of the celestial being. Its power is beyond what you and I can imagine at present. But without a doubt, as long as one can inherit this unique skill, the future is promising. Li Yun was stunned. This was the first time he had ever heard news from outside the Xushuan Yue kingdom. And it was also the first time he had ever known that there was a suzerain state called the Lai Tian dynasty above the Xushuan Yue kingdom. It's not that he was out of touch with the world. It's just that his predecessor had a very low starting point. My background is too ordinary. This isn't an information-rich country where everyone can sit at home and scroll through their phones to see the whole world. There's simply no way to learn about so much information. In the original owner's understanding, being able to enter the heavenly martial sect as an outer disciple with a 5th-grade aptitude was already a great success, enough to bring glory to one's ancestors. As for the future of martial arts, or even the possibility of leaving Yue Kingdom to establish a renowned reputation, that was something I never even considered. But things are different now. The original body is gone. All that remains is Li Yun, who transmigrated with a built-in system. It's one thing to be unaware of the vastness of the world, but once you know how vast it is, you can never allow yourself to shrink into a small, confined space like a frog in a well, croaking away. Only. Now, talking about these things seems somewhat distant. He had only been in the world for a short time, and his early development seemed to be all right. It wasn't rapid, but it was steady progress. However, in the end, he was still just a minor martial artist at the 4th level of the body tempering realm. With this level of strength, talking about anything outside of Yue Kingdom would be embarrassing, not only for others to laugh at us, but for us to feel awkward ourselves. I understand. Thank you for the guidance, Senior Sister Zhang. I will keep the matter of the 12 palaces of heaven in mind. If I have the chance, I will try to see if I can obtain the inheritance. I have something I'd like to ask Senior Sister Zhang for a favor. Yes, what is it? Tell me. Li Yun stood up and looked at the valley where he was. Senior Sister Zhang, I think this valley has a nice environment. It's safe and secluded. So I'd like to go into seclusion here for a while. I wonder if that's possible. Zhang Ruohan was somewhat surprised, not expecting Li Yun to make such a request. However, she was a smart woman and immediately understood Li Yun's underlying meaning. Wanting to go into seclusion isn't something you can just do by talking big. Someone has to be responsible for 3 meals a day. Otherwise, people can starve to death just by being hungry, let alone talk about seclusion. Especially for Li Yun, whose strength is still low. He can't even freely enter and exit this valley. If no one provides him with these conditions, then wanting to seclude himself here is a joke. So, Li Yun clearly wanted her to do him this favor. Thinking of this, Zhang Ruohan couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. He said irritably, "You're really shameless. If you're going to go into seclusion here, I'll be very busy. But whatever, go into seclusion if you want. I'll prepare a few days' worth of food for you later. Then I'll go back to my sect and come see you again in a few days. But remember this, next time I come to see you, if you haven't made much progress, I'll take you back with me." Li Yun was overjoyed upon hearing this and thanked Zhang Ruohan repeatedly. He couldn't help but sigh inwardly, realizing how lucky he was to have met Zhang Ruohan by chance, as he had certainly reaped considerable benefits through her. If there's anything wrong with it, that's probably how he indirectly offended Zhao Chuanfeng. But it doesn't matter. He takes this in stride. In this life, it's impossible for everything to go smoothly forever, and no one can be the center of the universe, with everything revolving around them. In the martial arts world, it's inevitable that people will form grudges with each other, whether directly or indirectly. Even without Zhao Chuanfeng, there might have been other Li Chuanfengs, Wu Chuanfengs, or something similar. As long as we seize the opportunity and improve our strength as quickly as possible, everything will naturally fall into place. No matter what wind blows, we can just crush it with one foot. We have a system, so we should have this confidence. After the agreement was reached, Zhang Ruohan then left first, leaving the valley to bring Li Yun some game and various fruits, enough for about 3 or 4 days' worth of food. Then he left behind the precious sword he always carried with him, and the martial arts technique he had promised to exchange with Li Yun. Only then did they return to their clan. After Zhang Ruohan left, Li Yun couldn't help but feel a little lost. But the thought that from now on, in this deserted valley, he would no longer have any taboos and could freely cultivate filled him with excitement. He wasn't going to waste any time. After eating a little something, he sat down to cultivate. This time, he was prepared to go all out and completely elevate the remaining 5 stances of the basic stance training. Regardless of whether he could obtain the heavenly mansion inheritance, this was at least an essential path for him to accelerate his cultivation. just as Li Yun began to enter a state of seclusion. Gu Yunzheng from Ren 95 Academy, after waiting for several days without receiving any news from his cousin He Tingfeng and Su Yaowu, finally couldn't hold back any longer. Moreover, he didn't find anyone investigating Li Yun's whereabouts and thought that the matter would probably fade away in the calm of the day. Early in the morning, they went to Hospital C-77. At the entrance of Courtyard C-77, Gu Yunzheng politely stopped a disciple who was walking out of it. "Senior brother, my name is Gu Yunzheng, and I am He Tingfeng's cousin. I have something to discuss with him. Could you please call him for me?" "What did you say? You're He Tingfeng's cousin. Perfect timing. That bastard He Tingfeng owes me 800 taels of silver. He promised to pay me back in 3 days, but he just ran off without a word. You better pay me back right now." Chapter 34, Shocking. Gu Yunzheng becomes the scapegoat. Zhao Yufu looked incredibly excited. He grabbed Gu Yunzheng by the collar and held on tightly, refusing to let go. While yelling angrily at Gu Yunzheng, he also turned around and shouted into the Bing 77 courtyard. "Li Qin! Wang Wei! Come out quickly. He Tingfeng's cousin is here. He wants to pay back the money on He Tingfeng's behalf." In less than half a minute, 6 or 7 people rushed out. They were all like wolves and tigers, their faces full of displeasure. Where is He Tingfeng's cousin?" "Ha, so this is the guy. Come on, pay up. Your cousin He Tingfeng, that bastard, owes me 800 taels. And me too. He Tingfeng owes me 700 taels. Here's the IOU. He, I also have an IOU here. This one is for 1,000 taels. Good heavens. In just a short while, 7 or 8 IOUs were shoved into Gu Yunzheng's face, totaling at least 5,000 taels of silver in debt. Gu Yunzheng was completely dumbfounded and almost cried out of anxiety. 5,000 taels is no small sum. Even though his family was well off, they gave him enough silver to help him do better in the heavenly martial sect, so he only brought 3,000 taels with him. Even if I took out all 3,000 taels, it wouldn't be enough to pay off my debts. Moreover, why should he pay off He Tingfeng's debts? Even though He Tingfeng is his cousin, one thing is one thing, and He Tingfeng should repay the debts he borrowed himself. Besides, he only came to confirm Li Yun's whereabouts with He Tingfeng. No, I didn't intend to pay off He Tingfeng's debts. You've got the wrong idea." "What's wrong with you? Where did we go wrong?" "That bastard of a cousin of yours borrowed money from us, promising to pay it back 3 days ago, but where is he? That bastard has been missing for days. He must have run away." "He ran away, so if we don't go after our cousin, who else can we turn to for the debt? Even if this matter goes up in the air and is taken to the court of punishment, we will still be in the right." Zhao Lefu grabbed Gu Yunzheng and slapped him across the face repeatedly, threatening him fiercely. "If you hadn't come today, that would have been fine, but since you're here, you have to pay back the money, or you're not leaving today. Hey guys, drag this guy inside and search him." Several outer disciples of the C-77 Academy grabbed Gu Yunzheng without saying a word and dragged him into the courtyard, all the way to his room, where they began searching him without explanation. They directly searched and found all 3,000 taels of silver notes that Gu Yunzheng always carried with him. This startled Gu Yunzheng, who let out a loud roar. "You can't do this. I don't owe you any money. It's He Tingfeng who owes you money, not me. You owe me the money, or I will definitely report you to the authorities." Snap. "You still want to sue us? Then go ahead and sue us. You think you're in the right to refuse to pay back your debts. Hey guys, let's beat him up." Without saying a word, several disciples from the C-77 Academy pinned Gu Yunzheng to the ground and began to beat him mercilessly. Gu Yunzheng was beaten until he screamed, and his face was bruised and swollen, looking like a pig's head. Then they threw him out of the Bing 77 courtyard and threatened him that if He Tingfeng didn't come back to repay the money, they would have to ask him for the remaining debt. Gu Yunzheng was so angry that he almost broke down on the spot. In a fit of anger, he prepared to go to the punishment hall to sue these disciples of the Bing 77 Academy. But halfway there, he suddenly realized his mistake. Those disciples from the C-77 Academy all said that He Tingfeng had been missing for several days. In their view, He Tingfeng ran away because he owed debts. But in his opinion, this was definitely wrong. If He Tingfeng really intended to run away, how could he not go to him to ask for the money he owed for helping to deal with Li Yun? He promised a full 1,000 taels of silver, which is no small sum. He knew He Tingfeng's character. He wouldn't just abandon 1,000 taels of silver and run away. So something must have gone wrong. Then, thinking about how Li Yun had also been missing for several days, but after Su Qing and Zhang Chu had been anxiously waiting, they said that Li Yun had gone back to his hometown, and there had been no further news since. This gave him a real fright. Could it be that He Tingfeng and Su Yaowu failed to deal with Li Yun and ended up getting themselves into trouble instead? If that's the case, wouldn't he be inviting trouble if he went to the court to file a complaint? Thinking about this, Gu Yunzheng was so angry that he almost vomited blood. What kind of veteran disciple has he been studying for over 2 years? He's a complete waste. The two of you couldn't even handle a newbie who's only been studying for a month, and now I have to pay off your debts. Paying off the debt is one thing, but I also got beaten up. Using a puddle by the roadside as a reference, Gu Yunzheng glanced at his face. It was covered in bruises, and his former handsome appearance was nowhere to be seen. He was filled with hatred and dared not return to Ren 95 Hospital. He could only sit by the pond, sulking, while trying to think of a solution. At that very moment, suddenly 2 more outer disciples from the 77th Academy caught up with him. Upon seeing him, they were delighted and, without saying a word, grabbed him and lifted him up. They dragged it directly to a small hill near the C-77 hospital. Gu Yun was terrified, thinking they were going to harm him, and screamed in terror. Until they reached a certain spot on the mountaintop. The two then threw Gu Yunzheng to the ground. Several people were already waiting there, each with a cold expression and a contemptuous look. The leader was a young man dressed in blue. Everyone else was standing, but he was the only one sitting on a boulder, toying with a gleaming dagger in his hand. Upon seeing Gu Yunzheng arrive, the young man in blue merely glanced at him before revealing a playful expression. "You are Gu Yunzheng, He Tingfeng's cousin." Yes, who are you?" Gu Yunzheng was terrified. He could tell that this young man in blue must be someone important. The disciples of the 77th Academy who had just beaten him were standing next to the young man in blue, each one of them meek and obedient, without any arrogance. "Let me introduce myself. My name is Wu Yuekong, and I am the chief of the C-77 Academy. I heard you came here specifically to pay off your cousin He Tingfeng's debts, and you took out 3,000 taels in one go. Wow, that's quite a generous gesture. What about mine?" Wu Yuekong snapped his fingers, and a man behind him sneered and handed 2 IOUs to Gu Yunzheng. "Look at that bastard He Tingfeng. He owes our young master Wu 3,000 taels of silver. When are you going to pay it back for him?" Puff. Gu Yunzheng glanced at the IOU and couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood on the spot. He collapsed to the ground. She fainted immediately. In the moment he fainted, he cursed He Tingfeng, that damned bastard, 1,000 times in his mind. "You fucking beast. Just how much debt do they owe? Why should I have to pay it all for them?" Just fainting won't help. Wu Yuekong simply waved his hand, and someone nearby brought a ladle of water. Without a word, he poured it on Gu Yunzheng's face, instantly waking him up. Chapter 35, Gu Yunzheng reluctantly confesses, only to be blackmailed again. Who I am? Where am I? Gu Yunzheng, who had just woken up, was still in a daze. When he turned to look at Wu Yuekong, his face froze. At that moment, he desperately wished he could pretend to be stupid. However, he knew that was impossible. But he was not only unwilling to pay off that bastard He Tingfeng's debts, he also simply didn't have the money. The 3,000 taels of silver notes he brought from home had already been confiscated by Zhao Lefu and his gang from the Bing 77 courtyard. All he had left were a few dozen taels of loose silver. How could he possibly repay them? How are you going to pay it back? Looking at Gu Yunzhang's miserable appearance, Wu Yuikong showed no pity whatsoever. You're awake. Now that you're awake, we should talk about the 3,000 taels of silver that He Tingfeng owes me. Gu Yunzhang hurriedly said, Young Master Wu, it's He Tingfeng who owes you money, not me. I don't care. He Tingfeng owes me 3,000 taels of silver and ran away without a word. You are his cousin, so who else should I look for if not you? Besides, you just paid back 3,000 taels for He Tingfeng and them. You've paid back all the debts they owed. Why shouldn't you pay back what you owe me? Do you look down on me, Wu Yuikong? Gu Yunzhang almost vomited blood upon hearing this. What do you mean by, he just helped pay it back? That was clearly a robbery, wasn't it? If it weren't for the fear that the matter of finding Da He Tingfeng and Su Yaowu to deal with Li Yun would have been exposed, he would already be at the Hall of Punishments to file a complaint, and he wouldn't be here now. But he still struggled. If you don't fight back, you're really doomed. Young Master Wu, that wasn't my choice. I had no idea He Tingfeng was in debt, nor did I know he was missing. I came to see him because I had something to discuss, but they pinned the debt on me and even stole my banknotes. Wu Yukong gave a cold laugh. I don't care. You can't tell me if you get robbed. If you really think you've been robbed, then go and report them to the Criminal Investigation Department. All I know is that you paid off He Tingfeng's debts to them, so you should also pay me back 3,000 taels on He Tingfeng's behalf. Otherwise, you're disrespecting me, Wu Yuikong. Gu Yunzhang was completely stunned. He was completely unable to discern this thuggish and domineering logic. Of course, if you really don't want to pay off He Tingfeng's debts, you have another option. Tell me where He Tingfeng went. You are He Tingfeng's cousin. You couldn't possibly not know that he ran away. I'm pretty sure now that your visit to Hospital C-77 to see He Tingfeng was a pretense. Your real purpose was probably to gather information for He Tingfeng, right? You have two choices. Reveal He Tingfeng's whereabouts or pay off his debts. Choose one. Stop arguing with me about those useless things. As a person, you can't just do nothing. If you do that, you're just forcing me to take action against you. This time, Gu Yunzhang was completely horrified. Either return the money, or tell us where He Tingfeng is. This isn't giving him a choice. It's clearly forcing him to die. How can he choose? There was simply no choice. But Wu Yuikong was clearly getting impatient and suddenly jumped off the boulder. With a flick of the dagger, the sharp point was pressed against his throat. His eyes were cold and indifferent. I'll ask you one last time. Which of the two choices do you pick? Gu Yunzhang turned pale with fright, completely flustered under the threat of his life. I'll talk. Young Master Wu, could I speak with you alone? Wu Yuikong frowned, but without much thought, he waved his hand to dismiss the people around him, leaving him alone. He didn't put the dagger back in his hand. Gu Yunzhang subconsciously swallowed, suppressing his fear. Young Master Wu, I really don't have the money to help He Tingfeng pay off his debts. I really don't know He Tingfeng's whereabouts, but I want to tell you something that might help young Master Wu find He Tingfeng. I hope you can keep it a secret for me. Having exhausted all other options, Gu Yunzhang decided to risk revealing the truth in order to divert the attention of Wu Yuikong and the people from Bing 77 Academy. Wu Yuikong frowned. Tell me about it. Yes. Young Master Wu, I actually met my cousin and Su Yaowu a few days ago. They heard that I was being bullied in Ren 95 Academy, so they offered to help me teach Li Yun, who is also a disciple of Ren 95 Academy, a lesson. The other night, they seemed to have actually made a move. But strangely enough, Li Yun, a disciple of our Ren 95 Academy, disappeared after that night and hasn't returned yet. What? Such a thing is true. Wu Yuekong was extremely surprised. He didn't care about He Tingfang and Su Yaowu secretly helping Gu Yunzhang teach a lesson to the new disciples. In fact, there were many people who did this kind of thing. It wasn't a new thing for older disciples to stand up for newcomers and earn some extra money. This kind of thing had been around for a long time. Even he himself had made this kind of dirty money. The sects might not be completely unaware of this matter, but since no one took the initiative to report it, it didn't cause any major incident. However, it is rare for people like He Tingfang and Su Yaowu to disappear after reprimanding newcomers. Gu Yunzhang, don't try to fool me. Tell me, how much silver did you promise He Tingfang and Su Yaowu to help you teach that Li something or other a lesson? Gu Yunzhang had originally intended to evade the question, but seeing Wu Yuekong's sharp gaze, he dared not lie any longer and honestly replied, 1,000 taels. Oh ho, 1,000 taels just to teach a fellow disciple a lesson. I didn't realize you were so generous. Wu Yuekong made a sarcastic remark. Did He Tingfang and the others ask you for money? No, really no. I always thought they were afraid of attracting attention, which is why they didn't ask me for money. Today I couldn't help but come and ask about the situation, only to find out that they have also disappeared. He taught them a lesson, refused payment, and then disappeared. That's really something. Wu Yuekong wondered to herself. Could it be that He Tingfang and Su Yaowu failed to teach Li Yun a lesson and were instead killed by him, which is why they disappeared? But that's not right. The new disciple, who has only been in the sect for a little over a month, should still be struggling with his stance training. Where would he get the cultivation and combat power to kill He Tingfang and Su Yaowu, who are already at the 9th level of body tempering? Wu Yuekong knew there was something strange about this, and he decided to investigate it thoroughly. As for Gu Yunzhang, Wu Yuekong smiled knowingly. Gu Yunzhang, I can keep quiet about your affairs, but you'll have to pay the price, understand? Judging from your clothes and appearance, your family must be well off. All right, I'll give you a chance. Write home and send me 3,000 taels of silver within a month to pay off your cousin's debts. Not only will I forgive and forget, but I'll also let you follow me. I'll protect you if anything happens in the outer sect in the future. Including your fellow disciple Li Yun, I can also help you take care of him. How about it? Real. Gu Yunzhang was immediately tempted upon hearing this. Wu Yuekong was clearly no ordinary person. If he could truly gain his protection, not only would the previous troubles be resolved, but he would also have another powerful backer. Paying 3,000 taels of silver for this seems like a good deal. You don't need to doubt it. You can ask around. What I Wu Yuekong say is a promise. I always keep my word. All right, young Master Wu, I'll go back and write the letter right away. No need to go back, just write here. I'll have someone bring you paper and pen. Chapter 36, The Sublimation of Stance Training, Hunyuan Stance. Gu Yunzhang knew he had no choice but to write the letter, so he gritted his teeth and did as he was told. After I finished writing the letter, after filling out the address and handing it to Wu Yuekong, Gu Yunzhang slunk away. Hey, young Master Wu, I didn't expect that bastard He Tingfang's cousin to be so rich. A newly initiated disciple actually has 3,000 taels on him. With this letter sent out, another 3,000 taels will soon follow, making a total of 6,000 taels. We've made a killing this time. Zhao Yuefu leaned closer and said with a fawning expression. Shut up. What do you mean by making money? We're just collecting debts. Paying back debts is a matter of course, understand? Yes. But young Master Wu, are you really going to take in that idiot Gu Yunzhang and stand up for him? Stop talking nonsense. Do you think I'm that stupid? Those two guys, He Tingfang and Su Yaowu, disappeared after teaching that newcomer named Li Yun a lesson. There's definitely something fishy going on. These next 2 days, secretly investigate that Li Yun's background and then have someone keep an eye on him. If Li Yun shows up, let me know. We might just make a fortune. Ha, young Master Wu, you have a brilliant idea. 2 days have passed in the blink of an eye. Zhao Lefu, who was in charge of gathering information, excitedly ran up to Wu Yuekang. Haha, young Master Wu, I have news. I didn't know anything about Li Yun until I asked him. Haha, once I found out, it was really interesting. Wu Yuekang was drinking a little wine at the moment when he suddenly became interested. What's wrong? Could it be that Li Yun is someone's illegitimate child? An illegitimate child? Ha, young Master Wu, you're really funny. That kid. Well, I was quite shocked when I first inquired about him. According to some disciples of the Ren 95 Academy, Li Yun seems to have an inner sect background. He even went to the inner sect for drinks with another Ren 95 Academy disciple, Zhang Chu, not long ago. He has an insider background. I thought to myself at the time, I don't know how deep this person is, so I should avoid provoking him if possible. But then I heard some news that Li Yun had a fiancé named Huang Yi, who was also a newly joined outer disciple this year, in the Zheng 38 Academy. But it was actually stolen, and Li Yun didn't dare to say a word, never mentioning Huang Yi, as if it never happened. Wu Yuekang's mouth gaped open in disbelief. So cowardly. Yeah, I feel like something's not right. If he really had an inner sect background, how could his fiancée have been stolen away? Who would be so blind as to provoke someone with an inner sect background? So, I tried to get in touch with Huang Yi from Zheng 38 Hospital. Wow, good heavens. That woman was also quite something. She was pretty, but she was incredibly arrogant and looked down on everyone. However, when she heard that I was going to cause trouble for Li Yun, she didn't hold back and revealed Li Yun's background. I just found out that Li Yun doesn't have any insider background at all. The one with real inner sect connections is Zhang Chu from Ren 95 Academy. He is the younger brother of Zhang Ryuhan, an inner sect senior sister from Zhuke Academy. Li Yun probably just happened to have a better relationship with Zhang Chu. Thanks to Zhang Chu, he was able to go to the inner sect. And because of this trip to the inner sect, haha, he also offended Zhao Chuanfeng, a senior brother from Qinglong Academy. Have you offended Zhao Chuanfeng? That's not all. According to Huang Yi, Liu Ningkang, a senior disciple from the White Tiger Academy's inner sect, also dislikes Li Yun, but he hasn't personally taken action against him out of consideration for his reputation. There's another Liu Ningkang. Holy crap. Wu Yuekang's expression was indescribably fascinating. In fact, he also has an inner sect background. His older brother, Wu Yueshan, is also an inner sect disciple who cultivates in the Xuanwu Academy. It's just that his background is not as prominent as that of Zhao Chuanfeng, Liu Ningkang, and the like. He knew better than anyone how terrible it would be for an outer disciple to offend both Zhao Chuanfeng and Liu Ningkang at the same time. It's safe to say that there's no hope of ever becoming an inner disciple in this lifetime. I really don't understand how someone's luck can be so bad. All right. Since Li Yun is so unlucky, I feel bad if I don't do anything to him. I might as well take this opportunity to curry favor with Zhao Chuanfeng and Liu Ningkang and win a small favor. Go. Starting today, keep a close watch on Ren 95 Institute. If Li Yun shows up, bring him to me immediately. In the valley, Li Yun had no idea that he was being targeted again because of Gu Yunzhang. At this moment, he was staring blankly at the system panel. Host, Li Yun. Age, 16. Qualification, mid-rank 5. Identity, outer disciple of the 95th Academy of the Tianwu sect. Realm, acquired body tempering level 4. Martial arts, sorrowful wind sword technique beginner, basic stance training, stance intent can be upgraded plus, silk reeling force perfected, reversal of fate technique initial, thunderclap fist intent, flying star step perfected, can be expanded. Martial arts knowledge points, 1.5 million. In just 2 days, he had mastered the remaining 5 basic stances of the martial arts, and even managed to find time to observe the style of the valley entrance, raising his martial arts knowledge points to 1.5 million. But to his surprise, after all 12 stance training methods had been sublimated to their true meaning, the basic stance training on the panel once again showed a prompt that it could be sublimated. Having already grasped the full meaning, how can it be elevated further? What would it be after further sublimation? Originally, Li Yun was planning to take advantage of his abundant martial arts knowledge points to further improve his reverse fate technique. But seeing this prompt made him hesitate. Damn it anyway, we're in this valley, so we're not worried about not having any knowledge points. Let's try to elevate it once again. Without much thought, Li Yun immediately began to consume his knowledge points by focusing on basic stance training. Result: in an instant, the number of cognition points on the panel dropped to 500,000. In other words, this time the basic stance skill advancement actually used up a full 1 million cognition points, which is quite terrifying. It consumes more energy than the combined effort of sublimating the 12 stages and comprehending their true meaning. It almost made Li Yun's teeth ache. But soon, he was deeply attracted by what the system in his mind manifested. It was the same figure again, performing basic stance training from the very first stance. Each stance was fluid and natural, each one revealing its own unique essence. But as it is put into practice, the 12 stances and 12 true meanings displayed by the figure were gradually merging together. Gradually, it became 11, 10, 7, 5. When things finally calmed down, all that remained was a simple standing posture and an incomparably profound true meaning that enveloped him, almost turning into a star-shaped halo that surrounded his entire body. A wealth of information flooded my mind. Li Yun instantly understood what this was. It was called the Hunyuan Stake, Chapter 37 Shocking, 13th Level of Body Tempering. In the valley, Li Yun opened his eyes. He couldn't wait to stand up, and immediately assumed the stance of the Hunyuan stance in the open space of the valley. It seems to be standing but not standing. It seems to be squatting but not squatting. A profound and genuine aura emanated from his body, gradually transforming into a halo of light visible to the naked eye that enveloped him. Instantly, the surrounding air surged. Clusters of spiritual energy surged toward Li Yun in shades of cyan, green, white, red, and blue. A dazzling array of colors that, under the sunlight, appeared dreamlike and ethereal. With so many different colored spiritual energies flowing into his body, Li Yun could clearly feel that his body, from his skin and flesh to his bones and tendons, and even his internal organs, was being permeated and tempered by the spiritual energy. That feeling was incredibly comfortable. It was as if he was being immersed in a spiritual pool, his body being tempered through soaking. The body becomes visibly stronger. It's fair to say that a substantial transformation is taking place every minute. Good heavens! The primordial chaos governs all things, and all kinds of spiritual energy temper my body. Those 1 million knowledge points were absolutely worth it. In just half an hour, Li Yun felt a powerful force suddenly emerge from nowhere, and his whole body felt even stronger than before. Body tempering level 5. Damn, this body tempering efficiency, it's practically flying. In that case, I really don't need the qi and blood pills they gave me. He can temper his body without using qi and blood pills, and the tempering speed is incredibly fast. This is probably the first time among the outer disciples of the Tianwu sect. However, it's best to avoid using elixirs if possible. As the old saying goes, every medicine has some degree of toxicity. When all sorts of medicinal herbs are gathered together in one furnace, Even with the most sophisticated refining techniques, it is difficult to completely remove the toxicity from the herbs. These substances accumulate in the body, but not all of them can necessarily be eliminated. Over time, this will inevitably become a hidden danger. It is this kind of pure, natural spiritual energy that is more nourishing. Li Yun, having tasted the marrow, found it delicious. The cultivation did not stop, and 2 hours later, his cultivation level improved again, reaching the 6th level of body tempering. After that, the rate of improvement slowed down. But it was still incredibly fast. At least among the outer disciples, those who only practice basic stance training could not match his speed even if they swallowed 10 qi and blood pills in one gulp. Until dusk, Li Yun's cultivation has already reached the 9th level of body tempering. In theory, this is the limit that all body tempering realm martial artists can reach. The next step in cultivation is to circulate the qi and blood in the body, comprehend the changes inside and outside the body, and generate a pure internal force. Then he entered the refining power realm. At that time, internal and external forces will combine, and various martial arts techniques will be unleashed, resulting in a surge in power. Only at this point can one be considered a true martial artist. But it's strange. After reaching the 9th level of body tempering, Li Yun discovered that his body tempering, based on the primordial true meaning and absorbing various spiritual energies, had not ended. It is still being refined. He could still clearly feel that every cell inside and outside his body was continuously getting stronger due to the penetration and tempering of spiritual energy. This puzzled him. There is definitely a limit to body tempering. If one could temper their body infinitely and become infinitely stronger, then why would martial arts need to be divided into so many realms? One could just focus on cultivating the physique directly. The 9th level of body tempering is the limit of body tempering that countless martial artists have verified through numerous examples. It can be said that once a martial artist reaches this level in the early stages of cultivation, it becomes very difficult to find any effective means to allow the body to continue to transform. But he's still tempering his body, which clearly goes against the usual rules. Could it be because of the primordial chaos true meaning? Li Yun was somewhat confused. Although he had comprehended the true meaning of Hunyuan, this little bit of Hunyuan true meaning was just a drop in the ocean compared to the vast world. To think that one can directly comprehend the mysteries of the primordial chaos of heaven and earth, based on this single point of primordial truth, is nothing but wishful thinking. Unable to figure it out, Li Yun stopped thinking about it. Anyway, as long as I can continue to temper my body, I might as well take advantage of it. If my body is stronger than others, my foundation will be more solid, which can't be a bad thing. He simply stopped thinking about it. Continue your practice. 2 more days passed quickly. Li Yun finally felt that the tempering of his body by absorbing all kinds of spiritual energy through the Hunyuan stance and Hunyuan true meaning was gradually reaching a state close to saturation, and he had a faint feeling that the tempering was no longer possible. But at this moment, he had already undergone 4 more transformations after reaching the 9th level of body tempering. In other words, according to the levels of the body tempering realm, he is no longer at the 9th level of body tempering, but at the 13th level. This made his body incredibly powerful. Putting aside his toughness, resistance, and other qualities, just in terms of strength alone, he estimated that he could reach about 3,000 jin, or 1.5 tons. In his previous life, he could practically lift a small car with one hand. In this day and age, it's even more remarkable. A normal martial artist who reaches the 9th level of body tempering will have a strength of about 900 jin. Some people with special physiques and innate superhuman strength will be stronger, but at most they will not exceed 1,500 jin. But he weighed 3,000 jin. It is equivalent to 3 times that of an ordinary 9th level body tempering cultivator, and twice that of some naturally born 9th-level body-tempering cultivators. One force can overcome 10 techniques. If you put him among ordinary outer disciples, even if he didn't master that many martial arts techniques, he could still fight randomly. Even the most powerful body-tempering 9th-level cultivator couldn't withstand the burst of his 3,000 strength. One punch from him would either kill or severely injure the person. If we also consider martial arts skills, he has mastered all 5 martial arts techniques and also possesses the thunderclap fist intent. In short, he's invincible. He even suspected that if he were to face a true martial artist at the refinement realm, he might be able to hold his own. Of course, without actually fighting each other, it's hard for him to be sure. After all, in the path of martial arts, every major advancement is a qualitative breakthrough. No matter how strong a body-tempering realm cultivator is, they are using external force, while no matter how weak a force refining realm cultivator is, they are using internal force. One is in the light, the other in the dark. Internal energy is hidden within the body, remaining unseen. Once it is applied, it can produce an effect similar to striking a cow through a mountain, directly penetrating the surface of the skin and flesh, and directly damaging the internal organs. There are also many other changes. There's even a possibility that some old silver coins might have cultivated some forbidden martial arts, causing their internal energy to mutate and possess certain special effects, making them impossible to guard against. So, after a period of excitement, Li Yun immediately calmed down and secretly reminded himself that although he had a good start, he couldn't afford to be complacent and needed to practice more. He simply continued practicing the Hunyuan stance until he could no longer temper his body, and then he stopped. After eating a little something, he then sat down to continue observing the wind at the valley entrance and gathering more information. A life of constant toil. But there's nothing I can do. I have so many martial arts skills, and each one is eagerly awaiting a large number of knowledge points to improve. Chapter 38, The Silent Valley, where life withers. Time flies, and another day has passed without us even realizing it. This is the 5th day since Zhang Ruhan left. Li Yun had just finished observing. The cognitive points on the panel reached around 1.4 million again. When he got up to eat something, he found that he had unknowingly eaten all the food left by Zhang Ruhan. Holy crap. Have you finished eating? Senior sister Zhang hasn't returned yet. Am I going to go hungry? Li Yun was speechless. He didn't think Zhang Ruhan had done it intentionally or forgotten him. After all, she was an inner disciple, and it was hard to guarantee that she wouldn't be bothered by some trivial matters. There was nothing to eat, and there were no alternative foods to be found in the valley. Li Yun simply endured it, using cultivation to distract himself, so that the more he thought about eating, the hungrier he would feel. My cultivation has already reached the 13th level of body tempering through the primordial chaos stance. Further body tempering is no longer effective. Continuing to cultivate will only allow me to comprehend more of the primordial chaos true meaning, which will result in some minor progress at the true meaning level. This should be a good thing, but I won't see any results in the short term. Li Yun temporarily stopped practicing the Hunyuan Zhuang, and instead set his sights on the reverse fate technique that he had always longed for. The reverse fate technique took 10,000 knowledge points to go from novice to beginner. From beginner to expert, it takes 100,000 knowledge points. Li Yun doesn't yet know how many knowledge points are needed to go from beginner to proficient. However, even if it increases tenfold, his current knowledge points of around 1.4 million are definitely enough. He did not hesitate. Let's get started. Sure enough, this thing really is a big spender when it comes to knowledge points. The moment the upgrade began, 1 million cognitive points were gone. The reverse fate technique has also progressed from the initial stage to the proficient stage. Li Yun's expression showed a hint of excitement. After reaching a proficient level, the subtleties he had previously grasped regarding breathing and blood circulation became even more profound, more complex, and more perfect. This also made him understand why he had been in so much pain when he used the reverse fate technique before. A large part of the reason is that the reverse fate technique, in its initial stage, is not perfect and has flaws. Once mastered, the reverse fate technique becomes more refined and has fewer flaws. Naturally, it is more suitable for cultivation. Li Yun immediately assumed a stance and began to practice. That familiar feeling of blood and qi boiling, impacting the internal organs, and body temperature soaring appeared once again, but it was clearly not as intense as before. Instead, it is gentler and slower. In this way, although his body temperature continued to rise, causing him to feel a painful torment, the less intense stimulation miraculously allowed him to endure it. Especially now that things are different from the past. His cultivation has reached the 13th level of body tempering, and his physique has been improved in all aspects, far surpassing what it was before. In the end, this time he actually managed to persist in practicing the reverse fate technique for a full half-hour before he couldn't hold on any longer and was forced to stop. The results were gratifying. Upon opening the system panel, I was surprised to find that my aptitude had actually improved from the middle of the 5th rank to the lower of the 4th rank. It even surpassed the grade level. Li Yun was overjoyed. It's important to understand that there are 9 grades of aptitude, and the difference between each grade is enormous. The difference between a grade 5 and a grade 4 is just 1 grade, and they are completely different levels. Taking the example of revering one's innate talent from one's birth talent, although the success rate of revering one's innate talent from the 4th grade to the lower grade is still extremely low for ordinary people, the improvement is definitely at least 10 times that of the 5th grade talent. To verify the effect of the 4th grade qualification, Li Yun quickly sat down again and began to observe the wind at the valley entrance once more. Observing the rhythm of the wind, cognitive points +20. It used to be +10, now it's +20. It's doubled. Don't underestimate this doubling. You should know that the gains from this cognitive point are calculated in seconds. Originally, you could gain 36,000 points per hour, but now you can gain 72,000 points per hour. If you observe for 10 hours a day, you'll gain an extra 360,000 knowledge points out of thin air. But I'm so hungry. Perhaps it was because cultivating the reverse fate technique improved his aptitude, but also increased the consumption of his body, that Li Yun suddenly felt a strong sense of hunger. He was so hungry that he was almost dizzy. But Cang Yunju had not arrived yet, and he himself did not know any light body skills, so it was impossible for him to leap over the 300-meter cliff. We're basically stuck here. Could it be that he is going to become the first person in history to improve both his aptitude and cultivation, only to starve to death in the valley due to lack of food? It shouldn't be this tragic. Li Yun shook his head, stood up, and prepared to search the valley again. He couldn't let himself starve to death here, even if he had to eat grass. But at that moment, his gaze suddenly froze. Looking at the howling wind at the mouth of the valley, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration. That's not right. This valley isn't actually completely enclosed. Shouldn't there be an exit at the valley entrance? How could I be so stupid? I observed that place every day, but never thought of going out from the valley entrance to take a look. Seeing hope of getting out, Li Yun suddenly perked up a bit. Without hesitation, they walked towards the valley entrance. As they approached the valley entrance, the howling wind picked up noticeably, creating a powerful tearing force. The wind blades were like swords, and when they struck my skin, they caused a dull ache. Li Yun suddenly understood why Cang Yunju had left him food before leaving. Cang Yunju knew that with his strength a few days ago, he wouldn't be able to withstand the wind at the valley entrance. At that time, with a cultivation level of the 4th stage of body tempering, Whether it was strength or physical strength, anyone who dared to try to go out would only have one outcome: being swept away by the wind and killed. But this time, it's different. Li Yun's cultivation level was already at the 13th level of body tempering, and his strength could reach 3,000 jin when he exploded. His physical strength was even stronger than that of ferocious beasts, such as tigers and leopards. Although the wind at the valley entrance hurt him slightly, it did not tear his skin, but only left faint white marks on his skin. Walking against the wind like this, it took about 10 minutes. He actually made it through the valley entrance, and then walked along a narrow mountain path into another valley. Looking at it now, Li Yun was dumbfounded. The valley was wider, but it was desolate. A faint breeze blew in from a narrower crevice in the mountains ahead, making no sound, yet it made the valley lifeless. Not only was there no vegetation, but the ground was also covered with tiny white bones, clearly the remains of various birds. At this time, just then, a leaf drifted down from above the valley, and before it even hit the ground, it silently disintegrated into dust. And at this time, Li Yun suddenly felt a sharp pain in his skin. I looked down. He was horrified to discover that his exposed skin was covered with countless sword marks, with traces of blood seeping out and dripping from his fingers onto the ground. Depend on. Li Yun felt a sudden surge of fear. Without saying a word, he turned and ran. He fled for his life, traversing a narrow mountain path back to the previous valley, where he collapsed helplessly to the ground, now covered in blood. Hunger and blood loss caused him to fall into a coma. Chapter 39. It's Liu Ningkang again. Is he going to be nominated as the chief of the Ren class? Li Yun didn't know how long she had been unconscious. When he woke up, he found that Zhang Ruohan had already returned and was looking at him speechlessly. You're awake. You're really brave. I forgot to remind you, and you actually went through that valley entrance to that dead valley ahead. If I hadn't arrived in time, even half an hour later, you would have bled to death. Li Yun hurriedly sat up. Upon discovering that the cracks on his body had healed and scabbed over, he immediately realized that Zhang Ruohan must have arrived in time while he was unconscious and given him healing medicine. While feeling grateful, resentment also arose in my heart. Senior Sister Zhang, how dare you say that? You left me 4 days' worth of food, but you were gone for 5 or 6 days before you came back. If I hadn't found a way to eat, wouldn't I have starved to death here? Zhang Ruohan felt a little guilty upon hearing this. Well, it's not my fault. I was supposed to be back in a couple of days, but who would have thought Zhao Chuanfeng? Well, never mind, let's not talk about it. Aren't you hungry? Come and eat something. As Zhang Ruohan spoke, she opened an exquisite food box, which contained several dishes, including beef, mutton, and a whole roast goose. Li Yun's mouth watered at the sight, and he forgot all about complaining. He rushed over and grabbed the roast goose, then devoured it. Zhang Ruohan couldn't help but smile and said reproachfully, "You've only been hungry for 2 days. Why are you acting like a starving ghost? Do you drink?" As he spoke, he magically produced a flask of wine from behind his back. In his previous life, Li Yun loved to drink, but his alcohol tolerance was low. 7 or 8 bottles of Heineken would make him dizzy. But now it's different. His physique is more than 10 times stronger than in his previous life. What's a little bit of wine? He immediately snatched the wine away. Ha ha ha, meat without wine is like a soulless meal. He uncorked the wine jug and poured it into his mouth. 1 sip of sake and I instantly felt refreshed, exclaiming how delightful it was. Seeing his reaction, Zhang Ruohan didn't say anything, just smiled, a gentle smile. Li Yun ate and drank to his heart's content. He finally managed to ask, "Senior Sister Zhang, what's going on? What did you just say about Zhao Chuanfeng? What happened?" The moment Zhao Chuanfeng was mentioned, the smile on Zhang Ruohan's face vanished. He said irritably, "This is none of your business, so don't go asking around." What's wrong with saying it? Besides, If you hadn't delayed me for 2 days, would I have almost died? In the end, it still has something to do with me." Zhang Ruohan snorted coldly. "Who told you to act recklessly? You deserve to die. But you're right, this matter really does have something to do with you. Last time, I deliberately chose to come over before dawn because I didn't want Zhao Chuanfeng to see us together. I even took on a sect mission to pretend that I was leaving the sect because of the mission. But who knew that Liu Ningkang, that treacherous villain, somehow discovered that you had also disappeared, and then went to Zhao Chuanfeng to spread rumors, saying that I hadn't gone on any missions at all, but instead had a secret rendezvous with you." Zhao Chuanfeng took it seriously. "After I got back, he kept bothering me and kept asking me where we went. It was so annoying. If I hadn't found someone to cover for me, I probably wouldn't have been able to get away for 3 to 5 days if he hadn't been there." Upon hearing this, a cold glint flashed in Li Yun's eyes. "Liu Ningkang. It's that guy again, damn it. I'll kill him sooner or later." Zhang Ruohan was taken aback and quickly said, "Don't do anything reckless. Even if you had the strength, you couldn't deal with him. That guy's foundation in the Tianwu sect is too solid. Touching him would be like stirring up a hornet's nest. I'm not kidding. I know you're probably resentful that your fiancé was taken away by Liu Ningkang, but there's no need for that. A real man should be more magnanimous. She's just a blind woman who tries to climb the social ladder, not worth mentioning. When she finds out about your extraordinary talent in the future, she'll regret it. If you're still not happy, I'll introduce you to someone prettier and gentler than her. I'm afraid you'll be so engrossed in her that you'll forget all about cultivation." Li Yun was dumbfounded. Holy crap, is that even possible? A beautiful senior female student offered to introduce him to women. But am I that kind of person? No. I only have martial arts in my eyes, and I am determined to become the #1 man in the world. Women will only affect the speed at which I draw my sword. Senior Sister Zhang, you've misunderstood. I don't hate Liu Ningkang because of Huang Yi. To be honest, if Liu Ningkang didn't take the initiative to snatch her away, I would be in trouble. I don't have time to deal with her. But Liu Ningkang is too cunning. He already used Zhao Chuanfeng to trick me once before, and he's doing it again this time. He's really addicted to it. This kind of person is like chewing gum. Once you're stuck with him, you can't get rid of him. If I don't kill him, who knows how he'll continue to mess with me in the future. Zhang Ruohan, what you said makes sense, but... Senior Sister Zhang, you don't need to say anything more. I know what I'm doing. Don't worry, I won't do anything reckless. If I do kill him one day, I'll make sure to do it cleanly and won't implicate you." Snap. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Ruohan gave him a sharp rap on the head. She said angrily, "Is that what I meant? Am I afraid you'll be implicated? Let me tell you, although my Zhang family line is not as powerful as Liu Ningkang in the Tianwu sect, outside of the Tianwu sect, even the Liu family has to be wary of my Zhang family. If things really come to a head, I am not afraid of Liu Ningkang. What I mean is, you can't do anything reckless. With your qualifications, as long as you stay put, in a few years, Liu Ningkang will only be able to watch your back. You can't gamble with your own future. Also, hurry up and eat. We have to leave after you finish. I can't leave for too long. Otherwise, that bastard Zhao Chuanfeng will go crazy again. I'm not afraid of him causing trouble. I'm just afraid he'll take his anger out on you. Most importantly, Zhang Kong has already sent word that you need to go back immediately. He has formally submitted an application to the Outer Sect Elders Hall, recommending you as the chief disciple of the Ren character. But now there is some trouble. Some elders disagree. You must go back as soon as possible and appropriately demonstrate your strength to win the title of chief disciple of the Ren class. Once you get this title, you'll officially be in the eyes of the sect's higher-ups. Even if Zhao Chuanfeng and Liu Ningkang have ill intentions towards you and want to cause you trouble, they won't dare to be too arrogant. I understand. But this valley environment is really nice. It's perfect for cultivation. Can I stay for 2 more days? No. I don't want to be your nanny anymore, preparing food for you every day. Do you really think I have nothing better to do? Hurry up, finish eating early and leave early. Chapter 40 if you want to see me. Let Wu Yuikang come by himself. In the end, Li Yun couldn't persuade Zhang Ruohan otherwise, and couldn't stay in the valley for more than 2 days. At most, they were just using this as an excuse to procrastinate for a while longer. By evening, they had eaten and drunk their fill. After his cognitive points on the panel recovered to around 600,000, he left with Zhang Ruohan. By the time they returned to Tianwu sect, it was already dark. But there were still quite a few people walking around. To avoid attracting attention, Li Yun and Zhang Ruohan parted ways. One returned to the inner sect, while the other went to report to Zhang Kong. I left in a hurry that day. We had agreed to go to the armory with Zhang Kong the next morning to collect martial arts manuals, but I broke my promise. I took this opportunity to ask Zhang Kong again when we would go to the armory. He has now reached the 13th level of body tempering, which is the limit of the body tempering realm. Since he can no longer temper his body, it is time for him to choose a martial art to break through to the power refinement realm. However, he was stopped halfway there. The two who stopped him were disciples of the 77th Academy, Zhao Lefu and Li Qin. You're Li Yun from Institute 95. Li Yun didn't recognize the other party, but judging from their expressions and tone, he knew they were up to no good. No, you've mistaken me for someone else. Li Yunkai was too lazy to argue with them, so he simply denied it and walked past them. Joke. Now, nothing is more important than him going to find Zhang Kong. Playing with 2 complete strangers. No time. Zhao Yuefu and his companion were immediately stunned. Not Li Yun. Have we mistaken you for someone else? Damn it, what do you mean by mistaken identity? He's clearly Li Yun. This guy's playing us. Let's go, take him away by force before anyone sees him. The 2 men, somewhat embarrassed and angry, charged at him from behind. They grabbed Li Yun's arms from both sides. Li Yun's eyes turned cold. In this situation, he could actually turn the tables and kill his opponent. He could throw a silk entangling force at him, and not only would his opponent not be able to catch him, but he would also have his hands twisted off. However, he held back. He deliberately let Zhao Lefu and his companion capture him. Hey, what are you 2 doing? I don't know you. Why are you arresting me? Let me go right now or I'll call for help. I just checked. There are officers from the Criminal Investigation Department patrolling around here. You'll be in big trouble then. Zhao Yuefu and his companion's expressions changed slightly. Are there any court officials patrolling nearby? This is terrible. If they are discovered by the Punishment Hall Patrol, they will be taken away in no time. They don't dare to betray Wu Yuikang, and they will suffer a lot in the future. Once you've committed a crime and entered the punishment hall, you won't get out until you've been thoroughly punished. The 2 exchanged a glance and quickly reached a tacit understanding. They couldn't let Li Yun attract the attention of the punishment hall's inspectors. Well, junior brother Li Yun, you've misunderstood. We have no ill intentions towards you. HMPH, who would believe there was no ill intent? If you really meant no harm, why did you arrest me? Zhao Yuefu and Li Qin quickly released Li Yun. Well, to be honest, we are both disciples of the 77th Academy. My name is Zhao Lefu, and his name is Li Qin. The reason we came to find you is actually on the orders of our chief martial arts master, Wu Yuikang. Young Master Wu has something he'd like to ask you for a favor, but you just said it wasn't Li Yun, so we acted hastily. Please don't misunderstand, Junior Brother Li. Junior Brother Li, please do us a favor and come with us to see young Master Wu so we can explain ourselves. We promise we have no ill intentions towards you. No malicious intent. Are you kidding me? The way those 2 guys were trying to suppress their malice was practically written all over their faces. Only a blind person wouldn't see it. What puzzled Li Yun was how Wu Yuikong suddenly appeared again. Or is he the chief of the C-77 Institute? He and Wu Yuikong were completely unrelated. What did Wu Yuikong want by sending someone to find him? Is it a trap? Wu Yuikong was just a decoy. The real culprit was someone else. Liu Ningkong. Zhao Chunfeng. Thinking of these two people, Li Yun immediately and decisively decided not to go. It's not that he's a coward. Rather, he simply doesn't have the resources to confront these two guys head-on. A wise man doesn't stand under a crumbling wall, especially since it's dark now. If these two guys really cause him trouble, they could easily take his life. Wouldn't he then have nowhere to cry out for justice? I'm not going. I don't know any Wu Yuikong. Who does he think he is? If he wants my help, let him come to me himself. Why should I go see him? As he spoke, without saying a word, Li Yun took the initiative to attack. With both hands outstretched like venomous snakes, one in each hand, they twisted Zhao Lefu and Li Qin's wrists, and with a forceful shake, flung them several meters away. Then he walked away. Asshole. This guy actually dared to attack us. Zhao Lefu and his companion were furious as they watched Li Yun walk away. Just as they were about to shout for Li Yun to stop, two patrol officers from the Hall of Punishments walked by in the distance. The two were startled and quickly abandoned the idea of shouting, not even daring to chase after him. Once the inspectors from the punishment hall had gone far away, Li Yun's figure also disappeared. Damn it. That damned Li Yun is utterly courting death, daring to launch a sneak attack on us. Enraged, Zhao Lefu kicked a pebble away, which struck the nearby mountain wall with a crisp sound. Li Qin was about to respond. Suddenly realizing something, he exclaimed, "Wait a minute, Zhao Yuefu. Li Yun has only been practicing for a little over a month. Shouldn't he still be hunting his basic stance training? Yet he just now displayed a martial arts technique." Huh. Zhao Yuefu was also stunned. This is unbelievable. He's only been a beginner for a little over a month. Where did he learn such advanced martial arts skills? We were caught off guard, and he managed to shake us off. Something's not right. There's something strange about this Li Yun. No wonder he was so arrogant just now, not taking young Master Wu seriously at all, and even daring to tell young Master Wu to come and see him himself. Let's go back quickly and report to young Master Wu. The two of them immediately left in a hurry. At this moment, Li Yun had arrived at the entrance of Cang Yun residence once again and looked up at the plaque. Observe the true meaning of martial arts, cognition points plus 70. Observe the true meaning of martial arts, cognition points plus 70. Two notifications appeared in succession. Li Yun thought to himself, wow. He clearly remembered that when Su Qing first brought him here, his knowledge points only increased by 30 per second when he observed the plaque of Cang Yun residence, but this time they increased by 70 per second. This is clearly the effect of improving one's aptitude to the lower fourth rank. At this rate, if you could just stand here and observe, you could gain at least 250,000 knowledge points in an hour. Unfortunately, it's not possible. As an outer disciple, he stood at the entrance of Cang Yun residence, saying nothing and just staring at the plaque, putting aside whether he would attract attention. He was at least suspected of being a fool on the spot. Left with no other choice. He had no choice but to abandon this unrealistic idea and went up to knock on the door of Cang Yun residence.